like about these is you can wear them all day. Training, recovery, travel, they never lose shape. The material is soft and supportive. It's the perfect mix of comfort and performance. These guards are so lightweight, you forget they're even there. These guards are so lightweight, you forget they're even there, but they still give solid protection. It's like full freedom to play a game without that clunky feeling. Training, recovery, travel, they never lose shape. What I like about these is you can wear them all day. Training, recovery, travel, they never lose shape. The material is soft and supportive. It's the perfect mix of comfort and performance. The first thing I notice is that these guards don't move. Once they're in place, they stay there. I can tackle, sprint, or slide without adjusting them. You feel secure and locked in. My first impressions of the Goats guards, honestly, super light and super clean. Straight away, you can tell they're built to move with you. No bulk, just sleek protection that actually feels pro. These guards don't move. The first thing I notice is that these guards don't move. Once they're in place, they stay there. I can tackle, sprint, or slide without adjusting them. You feel secure and locked in. No bulk, just sleek protection that actually feels pro. My first impressions of the Goats guards, honestly, super light and super clean. Straight away, you can tell they're built to move with you. No bulk, just sleek protection that actually feels pro. These grips actually help you push off. It's like every bit of power goes straight to the ground. No slip, no wasted energy. You feel sharper, quicker, and more connected. It's a proper level up. I can't believe my Goats pack has arrived. My first impression of the Goats grips, honestly, clean design and a premium feel. Straight out of the pack, you can tell they're built different. Soft stretch and solid grip panels. They just feel like performance gear, not regular socks. These grips actually help you push off. These grips actually help you push off. It's like every bit of power goes straight to the ground. No slip, no wasted energy. You feel sharper, quicker, and more connected. It's a proper level up. Straight out of the pack, you can tell they're built different.
Hi everyone, I hope you're well. Happy Thursday. A big thank you for joining us. We've got an amazing an hour ahead again. We're going to be covering off 2 more sessions today. And as ever, we have got our Q&A that we're going to go through as well. So if you've got any questions, remember, if you're not a subscriber in YouTube, subscribe to our channel and you'll be able to drop in questions in the comments. If you are already a subscriber, please drop in a question if you would like to ask something. And yeah, we'll do our best to answer that towards the end of the call. What I am going to do is, I've got the screen set up and ready to go. So we're going to jump across to our other screen here. And a couple of things we're going to speak about is in regards to a couple of posts that we got dropped in today. I'm just going to see if I can find this one. So we got a great question today from Christian Boyle. He actually DM'd me and he actually dropped it into the chat as well. And he basically wanted to know if we could help him out with the high wave, the half pull spin, and the fake inside cut. I come back to him and I was honest and I said, I don't think I've got any videos or content for that. Within 5 minutes of me flicking it out to my network in the UK and Europe, we got the videos back and they were up posted within inside 10 minutes. So a big thank you to Dave over at Leicester City in England, and also our friends Tony at Fulham Football Club in the Premier League. So a big thank you for sending us those videos across. So if anyone is interested in these videos and what they are and the skills that they do, they're all in here, and all the YouTube clips are being dropped in there for you to have a little look through them. So I hope you enjoy them. We've got lots of people posting daily planners in the community, which is amazing to see. GPS tracking results, juggling challenges. Khaleesi's dropped in some really good posts this week and videos as well. One of the things I want us to make sure we are though, guys, is I'm not seeing many players dropping match objectives in. Okay, so I really want to see a big uplift with match objectives. Okay, so apart from that, we are all set to go. We're going to go in and I'm going to just walk you in currently what we've got at the moment. So if we go into our classroom and if we go into our dugout, as we said originally, within our Premier League sessions, I think we've got, let's have a count, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We've got 18 sessions in there in total. And what we've done is we've dropped them in as the coach-to-coach sessions as well. So we've currently got 6 in there at the moment. And I've actually got on this screen here ready to go in. We've got 3 more videos ready to go in. So once those 3 go in, which is going to be phenomenal, that's going to put us on 9. And then we're going to be covering video 10 and 11 today. So without further ado, what we will do is we will go in and we will look for video 10 and 11. So 2v2, attack versus defender. I think we actually did cover that one, and I'll just double check, but I'm sure we've got that one in there. So our first one is with the extra man, and then we're going to do midfield transition as well. So I'm going to play this short video, guys. It only goes for just under 2 minutes. And then whilst we're playing the video, guys, if you can make some notes, if you can make some notes on your device, your iPad, pen and paper, drop some comments into the group chat. Also, I've just seen that Khaleesi's just said a thank you for the gift that we sent her. Khaleesi, if you've got a chance, if you can post it into the school chat, a picture of what you've got, I'd love to share it on the live call before we finish in the next hour. So if it is possible to take a quick picture of it and post it. If you've already done that, drop it in the comments that you've already done that, and I'll find the comments to see where you've dropped it in the post for us. So super excited to share that one. We actually sent Khaleesi a gift that I bought back from Barcelona last year, and it was the last game that was played in the Camp Nou before the stadium shut down as well. So it's a pretty special one, and he was a player as well who played for Barcelona who actually threw the scarf into the crowd, and I actually managed to get it because he actually spotted me in the crowd. So I'll actually explain who that was, the player, and who the scarf was thrown in by. So I'm going to play this short video. I hope you enjoy it, and then I'm going to give you a bit of a walkthrough. We're going to do a walkthrough session on the video, and we'll talk a little bit more in the detail. So this is a Fulham Football Club, which is in the Premier League. We're going to be looking and following on from the last video. So the last video was 2v2, And now we're going to look at the 2v2 with the extra man. Now, we did cover a little bit in the last video about having a floating player, but we're going to go into a little bit more detail on what that looks like and how it should be set up. And remember, when I walk you through the whiteboard session, I'm going to walk you through as if you're coaching 7 and 8, 9-year-olds who've never really played much football or soccer before. And then I'll give you a different version if you're working with a slightly more advanced group, or players who are playing open men's or women's, whether it be semi-pro or professional. So I will take you through that and we'll have a little look at that. So I'll play the video and enjoy. Now you'll notice a progression in this session. So before we seen this as a 2v2, now the way we play this game, they actually have a player in the middle, in between the goals. So you'll notice this player here, the number 23 waiting. To score a goal, you've got to be able to bounce the ball off this player, and then once that player bounces that ball back, then you can look to score. So they're not having much success with this, and this is now where the coach gets involved. And again, this is one of the big things that we see in the USA and Australia. There's too much coaching going on. But definitely, if you need to intervene in a session, if you're not seeing success, and the players breaking down a lot, then you need to intervene and then coach. But again, one of the big things that we've noticed, and I've noticed over the years in working in Australia and the US, is there's too much coaching going on. Let the game be the teacher. We'll see how this progresses on now, and have a look for the player here in the middle, and also this player in the middle, how they involve the central players to bounce the ball off to score a goal. We'll let this play out and let's see if we can see it happen. So they start with the middle player, and he's a bounce player, and they involve him, and then that middle player then drops back in. And again, so he's a central point to get the play started. So they've got an overload of a 3v2, is to try and help them to get out and attack and score the goal. Great goal, well done. So it's only a short and sharp session with that one, but you don't need to see heaps going on in there. So what I'm going to do is I'll jump straight to the whiteboard, and I will walk you through exactly what we are looking for on this particular part of the session. So I'll just connect up my screen. Just bear with me for a couple of seconds, and hopefully we can get connected straight in. Fantastic. Oops. Where's my screen gone? Just bear with me, I just knocked it off by mistake, but I'll just reconnect it. There we go. Now, I was aware that on a couple of the previous videos we've done, a few people were saying that their screen was getting cut off at the bottom. So I just want to make sure that you guys can see my screen fully, and none of the bottom is being cut off. And I want to make sure that we get the full screen in on this one. So hopefully everyone is seeing the full screen and nothing is cut off anymore. So we've got the 2 versus 2, and we've got it set up with the overload. So what I'm going to do is I will set up our little pitch here. So we'll put the goal in here. So we got one goal there, we got a goal here, and we got another little mini goal there, and we'll say that we got another little mini goal here, another little mini goal there. And again, you don't need a lot of space for these pitches. Okay, you can work in very, very, very small and tight spaces. So let's say we've got the A team playing the B team, and the way that we seen it set up on the screen was we had the B team players here, so we'll say B and a B, and we had a B player there, and then we had the same with the A's. We had an A and an A, and we had an A there, so we'll call that the A team. And we got the B team, Now, what we're looking for is with this, we're trying to see if we can move the opposition around, and we're trying to utilize the overload. Now, one of the big things that we were hoping to see, and we didn't see it happening a lot at the beginning in the first minute of the game, was it was breaking down a little bit. It was a little bit, we would say, messy, and not as in Lionel Messi, but just messy. It just wasn't working really well. But I want to reiterate this for coaches. When a session looks messy and the players aren't getting it and it's breaking down in the first minute or the first 10 seconds, that's okay. That actually means that we've actually got something called development happening, and it's a challenge for the players. Now, if it's constantly breaking down and they're never getting a pass away, then that's a different story. So let's pull it back to, say, 7, 8 and 9 years of age. Boys and girls who are just starting the journey, maybe only training once or twice a week, and they're struggling a bit with this. What can you stop and reinforce them to do and to try and help them? Now, we've made it paramount that the player that's really important in this game now is the player in the middle here. Now, what we can do is we can say that player A and player B in the central area are what we call free, or a floating player. Now, what that means is, my understanding that and the way I would coach that is, any of the floating or the free players, they can't be tackled, okay? So what that does is it allows our teammates here and here to play a ball into the floating player and then look to affect the play and look for a new space to go to. And that's what we want to see. So if you're coaching those really younger age groups, what you can do is you can enforce the rule that the central players are not allowed to be tackled. Now, this is what might start to happen. With the 7, 8s and 9s, even 10s, this player here and this player here might start to hold on to the ball a little bit too long, and it's not realistic. So what you can do is to basically beat that, is say to them, okay, if you are in the central zone, you've only got 3 seconds on the ball. And if you go past 3 seconds, I'm going to roll a new ball in and give it to the opposition. Now, where would you stand as a coach? If you're a volunteer coach or a pairing coach and you're only new to the game and coaching it, my best advice would be you stand right here and you have all of your balls here. Now, if that player takes longer than 3 seconds, shout very quickly, ball's out to play, and then feed in a new ball to our central player here. And that will reset the play. That A team will then kick that ball out, and then everyone will be back into play. And then hopefully that's a great way of stopping players hanging on to the ball and slowing the whole play down. So that's from a younger age group. Before we go into a more advanced group or an older age group, what are some of the things that we're looking for within this session? Quite simple. When we are in what we call BP, which stands for ball possession, we want to try to create space. How do we create space? Quite easy. If we're saying we're the B team and we're on the ball here, we know instantly this player is going to come up to this space here. So all of a sudden, we've got this player's gone there. Now, if this player doesn't get defending principles, this player will probably go touch tight there as well. And that's what happens with junior football. You'll see this happening. Now, I'm not going to turn this into a defending session because it's not. It's a 2v2 with an overload. What we should be looking to do is we should be encouraging our players to play amongst themselves for a couple of passes to encourage this player and this player to move in. Then once we've got that movement happening, and it's called a trigger, that is when the next part of the trigger happens, and this is where the magic happens. I would then do this, get this player to make a bit of a fake movement in this direction to pull this player in even further, and I would then get this player to play the pass in. Then quite simply, we're looking for this player to delay his or her run this way and go online and then make that run there to hopefully receive the ball in there. So the trigger is a couple of passes between B and B. Then once the players who are in the A team move in, we look to then play it to our central player. If it's in the younger age groups, they can't be tackled if that's the rule. And then B needs to time his run. What we don't want to see is, and I'll reiterate this, and this is where the coaching comes in. This is where after 5 to 10 minutes, you can bring the players in and you can say, you might just work specifically with the B team for 10 minutes, send the A team to have a drink, but you say to the B team, I don't want your run to be that. Because what that will mean is, once they get to this point, they are in an offside position. And we don't want to be in an offside position. So this is where a little bit of coaching smarts comes into play. So when we're looking at things like 2v2, okay, we're thinking we want this run to be delayed and slow, and then we accelerate with speed here, okay? And that's how we get that player onto the ball. Now, final note, if we want to advance this for the older age groups, or if you're working with a group that are open men or women, what we would look to do is in this scenario is this player and this player will now be able to move off the line and actually be involved in the play. They also will not be allowed to be not tackled. They are allowed to be tackled because it's the more advanced group. But the way you can position this, and you don't necessarily have to set up the cones, but let's imagine there's lines between, and my goals, I've just realised they're not very good, they're not very straight, guys, ignore my goals. A little bit too wide there. We want the lines, let's imagine there's a line that's going along these two posts, and same here. And what we say to these players here and here, they've got to stay in the central areas. These wide areas that we've now got here, these are for the two players who are actually playing in them outfield positions, so they have to stay in those particular positions and they can go all over the pitch. But now what we're doing is by adding in that 3v2, and these players can now play anywhere they want, it's going to enable a lot more movement and a lot more space. So for the advanced level, we'll call them the floating player. We'll say there's no rules, which means you can tackle that player. Now, there's one more advancement that we can do this one, and I've seen this done before really well, and this is another way we can do it. We can force a player on this side of the pitch and a player on this side of the pitch, and you could give them an orange bib or a red bib and just put them in a different colour from the other two teams, and you can have a halfway line in. So this player has got to stay in this half of the pitch, and this player's got to stay in their half of the pitch. Now, these floating players work on the team. So the floating players work on the team who is always in BP, in ball possession. So what that means is all of a sudden now we are going into a 4 versus 2, and that's what we call a large overload. Does this happen in a game? during the week or of a weekend in the Premier League or in La Liga. 100% it does. You see overloads really quick, but there's one area that I would encourage coaches who are working with older age groups and more advanced groups. I would 100% encourage you, okay, to make sure everything is done with speed. And one final thing you might want to add in, if you've got older age groups and you really want to challenge them, you might get them to play everything on 3 or 2 touch only. And that would be my recommendation. So that's a little bit of a look at Fulham Football Club in the Premier League. It's a 2v2 with an overload, so it's a 3v2 or a 4v2, whichever way you set it up. I give you a great example of how you can set it up using younger age groups, players who've never played the game before, and then we then took it up to a more elite base level. Now, if you've got players who are struggling to finish off in that younger age group and they can't string 2 passes together, I would isolate the skill. I would pull it right back down to a basic session of keep everyone on the pitch, get everyone to get a partner, get them to go 5 meters apart and 2-touch football. Receive and send, receive and send. Then tell them very quickly to change partners. You've got 5 seconds to change. Then do it again. Receive and send. Then you might change it to 1 touch only and they'll start to struggle with this. And then after 5 to 7 minutes, go back into the main game. So remove the isolation and then put it back into the main game, okay? And that's a great way for the younger age groups to really enjoy playing the game with goals, because they all want to play with goals and to score goals, but also it's really important. And this is what we talk about, a whole session. So the whole part is what we see in the first game that I walked you through. The part is when we isolate if they're struggling with passing, and then we go back in to then try it again as the whole. So there's nothing wrong with splitting the session out into an isolated passing drill for 5 to 10 minutes. More so for your younger age groups and for boys and girls who are struggling. So hopefully you enjoyed that one. And before we go into our next one, because I'm conscious that we are running a little bit behind with time here and I don't want you to miss out on anything. So I'm not going to go to a break today, but what I am going to do is I'm going to just flick back into the school platform. If anyone does need to run and grab a quick drink, toilet, pen and paper, you can go and do that now. But I'm just going to show very quickly, I'm hoping that we've got a post in here I was hoping to show you. So what we'll do is we'll go into the classroom and I'm going to have a little look. I'm hoping we've got a post from Khaleesi. There we go. Look at this. So these are some of the gifts and prizes that Khaleesi's won, and the most recent one that we sent her was the Barcelona scarf. She's had the Liverpool one as well, which is amazing. And just to explain where the Barcelona scarf come from, and this is a bit of a special one, I was doing a interview and I was recording at the Camp Nou in Barcelona, and I'd actually know the agent of Lamine Yamal for probably about 2 to 3 years now, and Yamal actually had the scarf after the game. It was a game against Real Madrid in Copa del Rey, and he actually come over and threw the scarf over to me. So Khaleesi, when I said to you it was an extra special gift, it's probably one of the best gifts I'd give anyone. It's actually a scarf that was thrown in from Yamal at the game at the Camp Nou a couple of seasons ago when he first just come on the scene. So hopefully you enjoy that one. Look after it. Don't let Dad steal it on you. And it's nice to see you've got the latest mini Champions League ball here as well. So some good prizes. Now, for anyone who's watching this and you're wondering why Khaleesi's got 2 or 3 prizes, We have competitions that run all the time. And also one of the big things that we have running all the time as well is the leaderboards. And you will notice we've got someone called Jenilyn who's top. She's actually my staff member. So Jenilyn doesn't count. We only include the players in this. So currently, Khaleesi is number 1 on the leaderboard for players for 7-day, 30-day and overall. So there's the reason why Khaleesi's had quite a few prizes lately. And she's got that extra special one from Barcelona, which is a pretty special one, and I hope she enjoys it. Maybe pin it up, put it up on your wall, and look after it. So thank you. Now, we're going to go straight into our next one. So we'll go back into classroom, and we are going to go into the dugout again. And we've just done 2v2 with an extra man. I believe we've got another session from Fulham, correct? Now, the one that we're going to be looking at now, again, is one called midfield transition. And again, it's got an overload, okay? And what I will do again, I will try and make this really basic for those younger age groups and for those coaches, volunteer coaches who are working with a group who's not really familiar with the game. And then what I will do then, I will then drive it up to that more advanced stage. Again, if you're working as a coach or a volunteer coach with a particular age group and you want an example of what you should be doing with that age group or how you can progress the session, my advice would be drop me a post in the community within school and I will be more than happy to send you a reply back. So what I'll do is I will play this short video. It only goes for 2 minutes. Again, get a pen and paper, drop me questions in the comments, and enjoy and make as many notes as you can. So you'll notice in this session, the first thing to look out for, we've got 3 different colours. We've got red, we got blue, and we've also got the green. So this is a great game that you can set up, guys. You can set up any dimensions, really. The tighter, the better sometimes. What we've got is you've got the blues on the outside and you've got the green or the yellow and the red in the middle. Now, we use the blue players on the outside to bounce the ball off. The team in possession is their green or the yellows currently, and they're allowed to bounce the ball off the blue players. Now, obviously, if a red player intercepts and wins the ball, then the reds are in possession and they get to utilise the blue players on the outside. This is a great game for tight spaces. You want to encourage 1 to 2 touches in this small square or circle, whatever you set up. It's your preference. And what we want to do is encourage passing, movement and communication. Also, what we're looking for is, again, we spoke about this before with the coaches at Fulham in the Premier League, is that the big focus on youth development at the moment is all around transition. So what transition means, if you're a coach or a player, transition means if you're in possession and then you lose the ball, what are you transitioning to next? Are you going to go man to man? Are you going to mark spaces? Are you going to close off spaces? Also, transition also means if you're currently defending, but then your team wins possession, how are you transitioning to attack? Are you looking to fill spaces or holes on the pitch? So these are some of the areas that we're looking for. So again, guys, what you can look to do is rotate the players. So the blues are now coming out and you can rotate your colours. And again, you can time this for 3, 4, 5 minute sections. And the encouragement that you want to see is that transition constantly going on. So that's a great one, and I love that one. And apologies, I don't know why I said green, but there's definitely no green. It's yellow, blue and red that was on that pitch. I think I've gone a little bit colourblind there. What I am going to do is I will just pull up my screen really quickly for you again. And I will, yeah, perfect. So you should be seeing my screen now. So midfield transition, again, we're at Fulham Football Club in England. And we've got 3 teams set up. We got the blue, the red and the yellow. Now, one of the things that we're working on is midfield transition. Now, with the younger age groups, now it might be hard to do, or it might be one that they struggle to do, but you won't know until you try it. Now, you will notice as well, and I'm not going to explain what these are yet, but if you have a little look here, they actually had what we call dummies on the floor, and they were side on, and they are actual little mini goals. They were set up as goals. You don't actually see the progression on this video, but I'm going to explain a little bit later on what that progression's for. So, if we're talking about our younger age groups and we're trying to work on midfield transition, well, where's the midfield? Well, the midfield's actually happening all the way in here. This is the middle of the park. This is what we're imagining. Now, why is it so busy with lots of players? Well, that's what a midfield looks like when you're trying to get through that midfield. Okay, so blues are what we call our support or floating players. So if we put our blues here and we put them as our floating players, that means they're supporting whoever is in ball possession. So if the blue player's got the ball here and we know the yellows are in possession, he or she will play that ball there. Now, with the younger age groups, what does success look like? If they are able to get it from this blue player here and get the ball into this blue player here. For me, from blue to blue equals 1 goal. Now, once they've scored, the yellows will stay in possession and the blue will play back to a yellow. Then they go from shooting in this direction to now, once they've got it into this guy here, they'll now shoot in this direction. Now, what happens if they lose possession? Well, it's quite simple. The reds then come into possession. Now, if you're working with younger age groups, for me, if you can get younger age groups to recognise blue players are like the floating players, okay, and they're supporting them and they're part of the overload of that team, it's going to help them basically work on midfield transition. What's the transition? The transition is quite simple. Can we get the ball from this side of the pitch to this side? And with the younger age group, for me, that would be success. If they can get the ball from that side to that side, or from this side to this side, for me, that is success. And that is success for those younger age groups. I wouldn't be interested in doing anything else. That would be a great way to leave it at that. And I would be surprised if 7, 8 and 9s get too much success with that. But again, one of the things that we can start to think about, if we up it up an age group and we're looking at 12s, 13s, 14s, and we're looking at more advanced men, boys or girls teams, some of the things we can start to think about as we go upscale, I would start thinking about really enforcing scanning and 1 to 2 touch football. And that would be, if we're talking about maybe, let's say 12 to 14 years, that could be a great way to upgrade that session. So they do everything the 7 and 8s do, and the 9s, 10s, but they start to be coached on just 1 or 2 areas. And this is one of the things I want you to be really careful of. Don't be going in coaching everything. With the 7, 8s, 9s and 10s, let the game be the teacher. Just keep reiterating the rules. Blues are floating, yellows are in possession. If you lose the ball, the reds are in possession. Now, one of the big things that we can talk about in here is we don't want the blues to be focused on this, but we want the team in BP. So let's say the team in BP is yellow. We want them to be communicating. Okay, and how are they communicating? And we went through this in one of the live calls last week. We want them to be communicating, okay, with command communication. So using the voice, vocal, visual, hand signals, showing the teammates where they want it, okay? So that's what we should be looking for. There's some of the things we should be seeing. Now, a great way to progress this, if you're doing this with a more senior group, so I'm thinking maybe 15 plus for boys and girls up to open. This is a great progression for this game. And I've used this a lot, especially when I was at PSG in France. This was a go-to game that we used to use all the time. Now with this one, obviously with the older age groups, you probably want to make your space a bit bigger than the space that we've set up here. So make sure your space is a bit bigger. With your squad size, most squads have around about 18 players, so you could actually split this into 2 groups of 9. You could have 2 pitches side by side. So straight away what you do here is you might look to move out the side players, because we want to make it really, really tricky to get through this midfield transition for the older age groups. So all of a sudden now we've got 3 yellows, 3 reds and 3 blues, and that will enable you to make this more realistic, because this would be like, if you're playing a 4-3-3, this would be like playing in a 3 in the midfield and you've got an overload of fullbacks coming in and joining you, okay? Now, one of the big things that you can encourage here is, the rule is, you need to get that you've received the ball from one blue and you need to get it to another blue, okay? And then you receive it from a blue, and then they're allowed to score a goal. Now, where are the goals? We spoke about this before. We got 1 there, 1 there, 1 there, and 1 there. And you've seen in this video, and I'll just show you it again, what they actually used in this video was basically just the mannequins. So you don't need goals. You don't need small goals with nets. You can use your imagination. Now, the reason why they use these mannequins is because there's another progression a bit later on where the mannequins stand up and they utilise the mannequins to create second man runs and recovery runs. And we won't bother you with that one for now because it starts to get really advanced. But if you have a look at this one quickly, you'll see where the mannequins are on the floor. And the mannequins are just laying down on the side. So they're quite easy to see. And you'll see them in a moment just come into view. So we'll just play this one back for you. There it is, just on the floor there. So you'll see the mannequins, and then what they do is, within this setup, they would then look to score in one of those goals. So that would be a great way of progressing that session. Now also, you know, if you go, well look, I've only got 16 in my men's squad available who are fully fit. How do we do that with 16? Do it in 2 groups of 8. And what you can do is, to make it even harder, you can get rid of this player here. You've got 2 groups of 3. So a team of yellows in 3. You've got a team of reds in 3. You've removed that floating player in the middle, which means it's going to be even harder, because now the yellows, if they're in possession, it's a 3v3 in that midfield, and it's more game-like and it's more realistic. Most teams nowadays play 4-3-3, so there's always 3 in that midfield to get through. Now, who would this particular player be here? Well, depending on the way you're shooting, but this might be your number 10 or your number 9. Who would this player be? This would be your centre-back or your holding mid. So just to give you an idea of who these B players would be in the game. So again, it's more about the environment. It's more about how you set the session up rather than stepping in, coaching all the time. What would I be coaching with the older age groups with this one? What I would be coaching, you shouldn't be speaking to senior men or women about scanning or 1 to 2 touch football. If you are, then you've got major problems, okay? If you've got the younger age groups, you don't even speak about scanning or 1 to 2 touch football. For the younger age groups, the babies, the 7s, the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, success is being able to get the ball from one B to another B, okay? That will be a huge success for those age groups. What are you going to be stepping in and coaching On this one, if you're working with the more advanced, older, open age groups, men's or women's, I would stick it to two things, okay? And the two things that I would be looking for and I would be focusing on, 1 to 2 touch only, and look to play everything as early and forward as possible. What does that mean? You might set a rule that every pass has to always go forward. So every pass goes forward. Now with the older age groups, you can have a lot more of a larger space to work in, so it's going to be more realistic to the middle of the park, but every pass has got to go forwards, because if we're talking about transition in the midfield, you're not going to see a ball bounce around in the midfield for 25 passes, then go back to the goalkeeper, okay? We want to transition. If we're talking about successful transitions, we want to talk about transitioning from the back through the midfield and up to our striker or our 10 as fast as we can. How do we achieve that? Every single pass is early, and every single pass has got to be played forward. Now, what might start to happen is you don't have players in the right positions, so you need to then start speaking about positional sense and game awareness. And the big one that we used to always speak about, especially in the Premier League at Leicester City, was game intelligence, okay? So hopefully you enjoyed that one. That was another great session. So midfield transition from Fulham. So that's another 2 sessions done and out the way. What I am going to do is now I am going to drop back into our school platform, and I'm just having a little look at the screen just to see if we've actually got any questions coming in. And I will just pull this one down and we'll have a little look at the community as well. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'm just looking to see what comments we've got and if we have got any questions in here at all for those 2 sessions. Guys, again, if you want to ask anything whatsoever, please feel free to drop in a question on the comments there for us. That would be amazing. If you need anything you would like to ask, I'm just going to have a quick scan while I am talking to you, just to see if there's anything relevant that we need to speak about. I am starting to see as well, which has really impressed me, a lot of sleep trackers. A lot of you are submitting your sleep trackers. Okay, so well done to all of those players who've done that. We've had another Champions League ball drop, so that's great to see. That was from Taylor. Love it. So I don't know if you're aware, but with these Champions League balls, these are the balls that's going to be used for the final, okay, which is going to be in May. And there is a post on the community at the moment which enables you to pick the 2 teams who are going to be in the final. And I believe there's a prize pack of $250. And all you've got to do is log on to the community, connect to our school community, and guess who's going to be in the final in May. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, the final's in Bucharest, which is in Mr. Dominic Szoboszlai's home. And he plays obviously for Hungary at an international level, and he's the captain. What you will notice about these balls, they are really, really cool. They've actually got all the different star signs on, and it's quite funny that Taylor showed the picture of my star sign. So I'm actually a Leo. What would be really good to know is if anyone who's won the Champions League balls, we send 5 of them out. Tell us what your star sign is and drop it in, and I'll actually share a post to you on how star signs actually affect Premier League players and their sleep patterns. And we actually discovered something which was really interesting about, depending on the star sign you are, can determine how your sleep patterns are going to go through different parts of the year, which was really, really interesting. So that was a great one. So big thank you to Taylor for sharing that, and well done on winning that ball. Remember, if you've got them size 1 Champions League balls, we've got a great little picture here as well from Khaleesi, which is great to see. And she's got the Barcelona scarf. I wonder if she's been smelling it to see if she can smell Lamine Yamal. Let's see if there's any smell still on there from him. Brilliant, look at that. And she's got a little Messi figure as well, which we sent her, which is great to see. So a little bit of a good luck charm there as well for you, Khaleesi. Well done in winning the scarf and the little Messi feature on there. Again, as ever, well done to everyone. We're seeing a lot of GPS trackers. Like, this is a phenomenal one from Khaleesi, which I'm going to share with you. I was looking at this one earlier on, but look at all of the amounts of sessions she's logged on a tracking chart, and it shows you all of her maximum speeds, her total distances. So just from that alone, we can put that straight into our system, and then we can spit out what she's doing on average each week, and we can tell exactly how many minutes and hours she's doing and if she's going over. So that is a great tracking chart from Khaleesi. Well done. There's no surprise why she wins so many prizes. And final one that I'm going to finish on is a great little post from Xavier. It was a little one about Mary Fowler being back at the moment. And yeah, she was injured really badly last year, and it was actually when we were on the tour, and she actually got injured when we were at one of the games. We went to Manchester City, and this is the picture from when we took our group to go and watch them. But thank God she's back, and she's playing back for the Matildas at the moment. Now, I'm looking in, and I've just seen that Khaleesi said she's a Virgo, so that's an interesting one. I will share some information around the star signs and how it can affect your sleep patterns. It's really, really interesting, and I'll share that one with you. But as ever, guys, I think that is me over and out. A big, big thank you for joining me again, and I look forward to seeing you on one of our next live coaching calls. We've got one coming up on Saturday, and if you don't know, I did drop it in. If you have a little look, I will jump back into the screen control, because I've just remembered I should have walked you through this. We did make a change in the calendar, and you'll notice now that from this Saturday, all the live coaching calls have changed slightly. So it is on 9 a.m. Saturday morning Brisbane time, and I believe it's 6 p.m. on the East Coast in New York, and it's 3 p.m. Friday afternoon in Los Angeles. Now, we've done that to accommodate our players all around the world, because if you're not familiar, if you go into our map, you will see that we've got players scattered all around the world at the moment. So we need to make sure that we're covering and supporting everyone. We are going to make another upgrade, guys, on the calendar, and you're going to notice that we're going to have specific sessions getting dropped in a couple of weeks' time. There's going to be specific coach-to-coach sessions, there's going to be specific player sessions, and then there's going to be generic sessions as well. And some of the timings are going to start to change slightly as well, so we can accommodate everyone around the world. The way we've designed it is that you should be able to attend, based on your time zone, a minimum of 2 or 3 sessions a week. But as ever, if you're not sure where to find them, if you go into the classroom, if you go into weekly coaching calls, you can actually pull up all of the weekly coaching calls. So as an example, if you want to go all the way back to 2024, you can pull out the 2024, there's the 2025, and you can even go month by month now with all of our weekly live calls, so they're all in there. And you will start to see transcripts added as we grow and keep improving on the platform as well. So a big thank you from me, Raymond Wood, at the Soccer Pathway Pro. We hope you enjoyed that one. A big thank you for joining me, and as ever, please, please, please drop us some questions in the school community if you need to know anything. A big thank you to Christian Boyle, who dropped in a question about looking for some videos. And as I always say, I'll be honest, if I don't have it, I'll tell you. And I told Christian that. I don't think I've got any material on that. But I did, on an off chance, send it out to our guys on the grounds in the UK. And thankfully, our friends at Fulham got back to us, and one of my coach friends at Leicester City, and we managed to get hold of the videos for you. So as ever, I love a challenge. If I don't know it, I will promise to go away and try and find the information for you. I'm going to leave you with this short ad break. A big thank you, whatever you're up to on your Thursday night. Relax, stay safe. If it's Thursday morning in the UK, enjoy yourselves and have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you all on Saturday.
Simple as that.
One of the things I noticed about my Goats Grip socks is the grip runs across the whole panel, so there's no bunching or sliding in your boots.
These grip pads will help you not slip when you're going in for a tackle.
My old socks will get sweaty halfway through the game. Not with Goats Grip, they stay cool and dry from start to finish.
These guards are so lightweight, you forget they're even there, but they still give solid protection. It's like full freedom to play a game without that clunky feeling. I used to wear bulky guards that slip down every game. These stay in place the whole time.
These shin pads are stretchy, durable, definitely not be ripping anytime soon.
Switch to Goat sleeves now. You don't slip, you don't slide, nice and snug, nice and tight.
It's crazy how light these things are. I've worn a lot of old school pads in my time.
All around talent ID and what we call our football or soccer IQ test and why it is important. So, hopefully guys, you're going to love this one. As ever, drop the questions into YouTube for me. And as the questions are coming in, I will flick in between to see if there is any questions relevant to what we're speaking about. And again, I'm looking for you guys to ask me questions for the end of the call as well. So we've got enough content to keep talking through as we work through. So what I will do is I will bring up my trusty whiteboard on here and we'll have a little look, and I'm going to walk you through certain parts of this presentation. Now, just as I connect and we get connected to the screen. Fantastic. It's split into 8 to 10 sections. So section 1, and we're going to talk a little bit about the 1,000 things wrong with trial systems. Now what I want you to do is to help me with this, especially on the live. Can you type in the comments, what are things that you've seen in Talent ID or trial systems that you think have been wrong? What are some of the examples you can give me that you've seen when it comes to pre-season, and maybe for you, your son, your daughter, you're having to trial? What are some of the things that you've seen that you think are wrong or you disagree with? Okay. Now, one of the big things that I can definitely contest to, and for anyone who's watching this for the first time and don't know me, my name's Raymond Wood. I'm not only one of the highest qualified football or soccer coaches on the planet, with over 26 different roles. I've worked in the game for many years, and I'm also qualified under UEFA Academy as a player agent, and I'm a player progression specialist. And to top it off, I've worked on one of football's biggest projects called the EPPP in the Premier League and the English FA, where we spent just over £2 billion on how to develop world-class superstars. So this is where my knowledge comes from. Do I claim to know everything? No, but I do claim to know 99% more than most after my 25 years of working in the sport and working in the industry. So when we look at Talent ID, okay, for me, the first thing is it's very subjective. And again, if you've got a different opinion on this, you can put it in for me. Now, what I mean, it's very subjective, and also it's very opinion, okay, based. And the problem with opinions, it's a good thing, but do we really want opinions when we have got our sons or daughters, or you as a player, your maybe football or soccer careers on the line, okay? When people look at you as a player, it tends to be what we call a short-term snapshot, which is wrong for me. And a lot of clubs and selectors, they base it on what we call select now. And what we mean by select now, it means like where the player's at right now, not where maybe the player might be in a year or 5 years' time. And one of the big things that I find when it's subjective and it's not objective, okay, decisions are made by emotion over data. And this is where it all goes wrong for me. So when we're talking about there's 1,000 things wrong with talent ID, there's so much wrong with it. Because we need to look at different things, and I've broken it down into certain areas. But one of the things that I've seen, this is my snapshot over the last 25 years, and it amazes me that whether I go back to 25 years ago or I go back a year ago, I still see the same thing, okay? Players turn up to a club, at most clubs around the world, they'll get thrown into a game, they'll get given a bib or a jersey with a number on, and they'll get put in a series of games. And 9 times out of 10, the first thing you hear from those players when they come home or on the drive home is, well, how did your trial go? Well, it was okay, but I got played out of position for most of the night. Well, didn't you speak to the coach? Well, no, the problem is because there's another 100 players there, and the coaches are just trying to get players on the field and looking at them. And it all comes down to one thing. It's education. And what I mean by education, it's not knowing what you are firstly looking for and how, from having 100 players in front of you in a 2 to 3 hour period, how can you draw out what we call objective data, which is going to help you select players. But if we pull it back a level, what are we looking at players for? Are we looking at players for the now? And are we looking at short term? Or are we is 2 levels. And when I'm talking about 2 levels, I'm talking about an age group. So let's say we've got 12s and we're looking at under 12s. We've got one boy, okay, who is currently this big physically and this tall. And then we've got another boy who's this big physically and this tall. And that's where their height and physicality comes in. But this player here, let's say player A versus player B, has already started going through maturation or puberty, okay? And this is one of the big mistakes that we make. When we're a technical director or a coach, it's because clubs don't know how to grade properly, objectively, and what they're actually looking for. And this is why it all goes wrong. Now, one of the things we're going to move on to, and I'm going to clear this screen, is the second part of this is we normally look at players aged 8 to 16s for trials, boys and girls around the globe, okay? Firstly is, why that age bracket? That's the first question I'll be asking. And why aren't we looking at long term? Why aren't we looking from ages of 3 years to 23 years and looking at a 20-year journey of a player? And again, it all comes down to one thing. It's the lack of education and knowing how to do it. Now, why not a long-term commitment? And we've just spoke about it. A lot of clubs think it's too hard. It's too much to cover. But it all comes down to they just don't know how to do it. And one of the main reasons is Clubs go for the easy option, and the easy option is quick wins. And what does a quick win mean? A quick win means picking the biggest and strongest players and the fastest players at those age groups, because they'll literally physically bully their way through games and get wins, and it makes that coach look good and it makes that club look good. And one of the most upsetting things to me is the fact that they have a lack of a long-term strategy. Shows a club or coach or technical director's weakness. And I'll be honest, it was one thing that I used to do in my 20s when I first started coaching, when I was first a technical director, when I was first head of football at a club. My lack of education on how to do this properly forced me into doing this the easy way. And look, 14's 151. Where now, what I actually gauge success and what does success look like, it looks like, how is Johnny or Sarah developing? And you know the problem with that question, and this is the biggest problem and the biggest question on the planet, how is this player developing? And for 99.9% of clubs around the world, they can't answer it, because they don't have an objective-based talent ID program at the beginning, and they don't understand what talent ID actually is and what is the point of it. And I'm going to talk a little bit more and I'm going to build on this. So, if we think of something called the IQ test, okay, most of us all know what the IQ test is. And there's this myth that goes around when we talk about education and the IQ test. People think the IQ test was designed to see how smart or intelligent you are. Okay? And it wasn't designed for that. The IQ test was to see where your strengths lie. I'm just going to put a big S for strengths, and where your weaknesses lie, and I'll put a big W for weaknesses. Okay? And the IQ test was designed to identify strengths, identify weaknesses. Once you identify strengths, you know you need to keep working on them. That's a given. You can't just stop doing it. But the big thing is, if we identify, as an example, 2 to 3 areas of weakness, what can we turn weakness into? We can turn them weaknesses into strength. Now, when I worked on the EPPP project with the English FA and the Premier League, and at the time I was working for a team called Leicester City, we thought, how could we come up with a way to build an ID protocol? When we look for talent, we're looking for talent for this particular reason. We are looking for talent to see, if we imagine this as a graph, okay? And let's say we've got player A is here, and this is year 1, and this is year 2, and this is year 3, and this is year 4, and this is year 5. And then we've got the levels of being a football or soccer player. And we know at year 1, this particular player is there because objectively, we've grabbed technical, physical, tactical, and social objective data from them. Now we know by the time this player, let's say this player is 10 years of age there, by the time they get to 15 years, we know if their journey has gone a little bit like this, because we're marking it with objective data, we know that they're heading in the right direction, okay? The problem is clubs, 99.9% of clubs don't even know at the first touch point when they hold a trial, they don't know how to grade a player objectively, and this is the problem. So it all stems from the foundation. And when you build a pyramid, and when the Egyptians built pyramids, they didn't try and build this block first, okay? They wanted to build this block first, then this block next, and this block next, and then this block there. And how did they know that? They had a strategy objectively on what they needed to build it from the bottom up. And this is one of the things that I learned working on one of football's biggest projects. Now, we're going to have a little look at what happens if clubs committed to a player for 3 to 5 years. And this is what we discovered would happen, okay? You would get loyalty from the families and players. You would get no or less politics, because no one can throw at you as a club, well, we don't do ID properly, and every year my son or daughter's got to try out. Where if you're at a club that's committed to your son and daughter for 3 to 5 years, you know that they're going to be given a chance over that 3 to 5 year period to develop properly, and you're going to get some better data. There's a culture, and it's always funny, the clubs that have got the best cultures have got the best structures in place. Why? Because every single parent, most parents and players will get behind that club. And guess what? You get more wins long term. And this is what we discovered, okay? So what we decided to do in the Premier League was, when we done the EPPP, it had to be all about development over selection. And when we talk about selection, we were talking about the now. And that is the wrong thing to look at. We need to be focused on development. So guys, if you're following along with me on this one, you're on the live and you understand me, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment what you think so far. Now, one of the big things that we discovered as well, and there's never been a truer saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. If you don't prepare, you've got no roadmap or pathway for anyone to follow, okay? You've got no measurable progression, so you can't actually chart or speak to a mum or dad and say this is how their little Johnny or Sarah's travelling. It makes you look silly. You've got no structure on a development model. And this is one of the worst things, having no structure. And this is most common in these countries. And people ask me, of all the countries I've lived in over the years, I've lived in Australia, I've lived in the USA, I've lived in the UK, I've lived in Europe, parts of Asia. I've spent most of my life living amongst all of these countries. Which countries have gone forward in the game and which countries have gone backwards from a development point of view? And it's quite easy for me to answer. The USA and Australia in the last 20 years have gone backwards in the game of soccer. And that's not just on the men's side, that's in the women's side as well. And it's really, really sad to see. But that's not me having a go at those countries. That's me just being honest, brutally honest. And it's all down to one thing. They don't have a roadmap. Now, number 5, and this is where it starts to get exciting. What happens when we build a player like a pyramid and we start from the bottom up? Okay? We identify strengths and weaknesses. We can design for the player individually and what we call a personalised programme. Now, a lot of club TDs and coaches watching this will go, it's just too time consuming. I'm only a volunteer. I only get $3,000 a year. I already work full time. Trust me, this is easier doing it this way, and once the system's in place, it runs for itself, okay? You can build a custom program for all of your players individually, which increases, which we spoke about before, is so important, the culture of the club. And you've now got one of the best things you can have, and no one can argue with this. You start to get accelerated development. And how do I know this? Because I've seen it in action, and not just working at pro clubs in the Premier League, clubs that I've worked at that have allowed me to put the infrastructure into place. I've seen this work firsthand, and it works amazingly well. Really, 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 really well. Now, this is where it gets interesting, and this is going to be more of an interest to mums and dads who might want to go running into your clubs, no matter where you are in the world, to talk about this. Or if you're a TD and you want to reach out to me, anyone can reach out to me through my socials. You can drop me an email, you can comment on any of the posts, and we designed what we call the Football IQ test. And where did it come from? It was inspired, apologies guys, it was inspired by the Education IQ test. It was designed to identify weaknesses and not label talent. Because this is one of the biggest mistakes you can make, is to label talent. Because I've never seen a talented 11-year-old. I've never seen a talented 16-year-old. I've seen an 11-year-old who was ahead of his or her peers from a developmental point of view, but I'm yet to see a talented 11-year-old, okay? Also, with the Football IQ test, what we built in, and this was the game changer, was an objective assessment. And in this objective assessment, I can tell you, okay, where your son or daughter or where you sit based on your age. And the biggest thing I can tell you, which should be the thing that every mum and dad or player is looking for, is I can tell you what your weaknesses are and how to turn them into strengths, okay? Number 7, objective data versus subjective data. And this is where it gets even more interesting, okay? Being told as a player or a mum and dad, your son and daughter is not good enough. This one doesn't just upset me, it riles my blood. When a club will say to a player that you're not good enough or you haven't been selected, then you would then say, okay, well, why? And then the club comes back and goes, you're just not what we're looking for, or you're not good enough. And this leaves a hole wide open for that particular club, because not many clubs on the planet can back up their answer by saying, well, actually, the reason why your son or daughter didn't make the top team, but they're being offered a spot at the B team or the C team or the D team, is because from an age point of view, when we've objectively tested them, for their development, They sit in the C team, which is the third team. They don't make the top team yet. Now, why is it important that your son and daughter goes in the C team? Because they're in and around players of their ability level, which means they're going to develop together. And that coach can target the development tools and sessions and teachings to help that boy or girl. But clubs can't tell you that. They just say they're not good enough or they don't fit in the style. One of the big things is when you do objective testing, you've got something called measurable benchmarks. And measurable benchmarks are where you're able to go, okay, Johnny scored 121 and he's under 11. And on the benchmarks, it puts him inside the top 15 players. And that is why he is in the top team. Because it's more about development. It's not necessarily about being in the top team. It's being in the top team because that's where all the stronger players are currently right now in this moment. And that's where your son and daughter is going to develop. But clubs leave themselves wide open. Also, by doing it this way, it makes clubs transparent with standards. And no one can argue when there's an objective test in place and that's how players are graded. And one of the big things that I see a lot, especially in Australia, it's rife with it. The tall poppy syndrome, the presidents, the vice presidents, it's quite funny how their sons and daughters always make the top teams. And I'm not going to name the club because I'm not going to embarrass them, but there's a club in Australia when I was once a TD, and I wanted to implement the objective testing for this reason, to remove bias, because there was a lot of things getting thrown at the current committee members of the club about their sons and daughters being in the top teams. And I actually got removed from post within the first couple of months of being there because they refused to allow me to not have certain players in the top teams because they didn't agree with the objective testing. So to put this in perspective, you've got a group of volunteers who know nothing about football or soccer, with all due respect, apart from being armchair supporters and volunteers. You've got a guy who's worked on football's biggest project, which has spent over £2 billion to produce some of the world's greatest football players currently on the planet. And they won't listen to me. They would rather have a subjective, opinionated model in place for talent ID because they didn't want to upset certain committee members, because if their son and daughter wasn't in the top team, there was a chance that sponsorship would be pulled. And that is why certain parts of Australia and certain parts of the US and Canada are not progressing in the sport, because it's run by a volunteer base. And when volunteers are involved, this is what you end up coming up against. And it should be all about one person in this. And the person it should be all about, it should be, if this is the planet and this is the universe and this is the player right there, this is the number one person who it should all be about. It shouldn't be about anyone else. And if it's in the interest of the player to have subjective testing and ID and trials, then it should be subjective. But when we talk about players as a whole, across a whole club, what is in the best interest of the players? 100%, you cannot argue a football IQ test which gives you objective results and feedback is the only way to operate a proper soccer or football club, whether you're a community-based club or you're an elite level or you're a professional club. Okay? Now, number 8, why it's powerful for clubs. And I don't know why clubs don't do it, and I know why, but it annoys me why people don't reach out to me, because I offer my help and support to clubs for free to help you put these tests into place so the players benefit. One of the main reasons why an objective football test helps, it helps you with pre, during, and post tracking. Now, why is that important? If we think about player reports, and the player reports that I see that go around soccer clubs all around the world drive me insane. It will have a mundane, subjective, opinionated comment from a coach about the player with no objective data in there. No reason why that player's got a trial again in the summer. No reason why that player has made it into the top team other than a subjective, opinionated comment. Now, can you imagine if you've now got a player who's got a score of 105 at the beginning of the season at pre, then they get a score of 108 during the season, and post-season they score 111. And the average score for that age group is 101. You can now back up your decision to put this player and keep this player in the top team. Let's look at it a different way. You got a player who comes in and scores 96 pre. They then score, as an example, 89. And at the postseason, they score 91. And the benchmark for the top team is 101 or 100 plus, let's say. You can now justify to that mum and dad, okay, why that player is now got to be maybe in what we call a B team or the second team. Can you imagine the power of having that at your hands? But you know as well, full well, that the objective data that you've got is in the interest of that player. Now, it might be because, unfortunately, and I'll give you an example, personal things happen. That player might have got a long-term injury. So that means for that player's development, it's better not to be thrust back in the top team with the physicality and the technical level being so high. It's best for that player's development to push up and will be pushed down into that B team, okay? Now, one of the other things, it gives clubs and coaches what we call ends of season proof. And what is end of season proof? To say that you know as a club, you can grade every single player and show every mum and dad in the club why they're in a particular team, how their development's gone pre, during and post, and where they are at in the bigger picture. So can you imagine when you've got a professional club comes along to you, if you're a semi-pro or a community club, and go, who is your best player in every age group? And this is what kills me. We know full well certain players get picked not based on they're the best, but because it's the coach's son, or the coach's daughter, or the president's son. Could you imagine as a club, you've got evidence when that pro club comes to you to go, well, let's pull out the data. We can give you, based on where they're currently at now for their age, that this is not based on talent, but it's based on their development plans. Based on the development plans, these are the players that currently sit at the top of the group. Now, there's a good chance that Tommy, who's in the under-12s, he is at the top. But if you look at him physically against his peers, he's just gone through maturation quite early. And that's probably the reason why he's top of the group. So you're given an objective reason and opinion on it, and it's the best way to be. Also, what it gives you is what we call visibility. And what does it give you visibility of as a coach or as a club? It gives you visibility of what we call player progression. Now, people say to me, Ray, why do you call yourself the player progression specialist? Because I know I'm one of maybe 10 people on the planet who understand this properly from the bottom to the top. And that's not me giving myself a big ego. It's just actually having confidence and belief that I know for the last 25 years, I've studied, researched, and been on some of the biggest football projects and soccer projects around the world to understand this properly. I've wrote a book about it, okay? I've actually got a program that has got players from community soccer or football clubs around the world who followed my programme, following these measures, who now are playing at professional football or soccer clubs throughout the globe, but mainly in the UK and in Europe. So that's why I know what I know, okay? And for me, the most important thing in all of this, it develops culture. And I could not think of anything better than being at a club, whether you're a community-based club in Southern California, in Laguna Beach, or you're currently at Arsenal Football Club's academy and you're a female player in the under-14s. I do not care what you say. The clubs who are the most successful on the planet have got the best culture. And I'm talking from the youth all the way through to the senior men's and women's, and the fans, and the way they engage with fans. And I don't think you can argue, there's no surprise when we talk about the three biggest clubs on the planet are Real Madrid, AC Milan. I'm going to give you 4. Bayern Munich and Liverpool. Now, ironically, these are the 4 teams who've won the Champions League, which is the biggest trophy you can win in club football on the planet. I don't care what you say, it's bigger than a World Cup. It's harder to win a Champions League than it is a World Cup, because the amount of phenomenal players in one team come from all different countries around the world. Real Madrid is made up of 11 international superstars. Bayern Munich is made up of 11, 15, 20 international superstars. So is AC Milan and Liverpool, okay? But culturally, you cannot go wrong. Now, we're nearly coming to an end of this one. I'm just going to finish off. We've got a couple of parts to go. One of the big things about doing objective testing when we're looking at talent ID, and this is section 9, it's community and giving back. Now, we work and we offer to work with any clubs in the USA, Canada, Australia and New Zealand specifically, and we offer this talent identification protocol for free. We will come out and help your club run this. Why? Because we want you to get your families and players on a level playing field. We want you to build on a development first mindset. And the beauty about doing it this way, it makes it accessible for all players. And mums and dads will know, no matter where you are in the football or soccer pyramids in your country, they will know your club is built on culture. They'll know your club is inclusive of everyone. And everyone gets an opportunity at least once a year in pre-season to trial, to get objectively tested and to fit in where they need to fit for their development. And not one mum or dad will argue with you. Do you know why? They can't argue with you because it's objective data. And once you've got this platform to start from, the parents trust and love and know. And when you send out your offer letters, and most clubs now unfortunately do charge, when you send out your offer letters and your fees for the year, I'm telling you now, parents would pay double to be involved with a club that's built on culture and built on talent identification that firstly is fair, but is also objective, okay? Now, finally, most of you will know, because most of you are on the programme, okay? The professional player pathway, the Soccer Pathway Pro, that I run, okay, it always starts at the baseline. So again, the analogy I always love to give is when we're talking about a pyramid, we always start at the bottom here, block 1, and we go from the bottom up. When you're on the the Soccer Pathway Pro program with us, okay, it's always built on a personal plan for the individual. We have clear benchmarks for everyone to see. And can you imagine if you could submit your data monthly to your community group to say, for the under 12 boys, the average score on development in the top team is 112. In the second team, it's 101. In the third team, it's 98. So then you're being transparent with everyone. And how can you give this data? You can give it in community or social media posts because you've got it, you've got access to it. And when it comes to retaining players at the end of the year and keeping players on, you're committing to players within your ecosystem. And my advice would be for 3 to 5 years. But what you're saying to the parents is, in year 1, they might have made the number 1 team. Okay, so in year 1, they've made the number 1 team. But in year 2, they might have dropped down to the 3rd team. And then in year 3, they might be back in the top team. And in year 4, when they've just hit puberty and maturation, they may have dropped down to the 4th team. And then by year 5, they're now back in the 2nd team. But what you're doing is you're committing to that family that no matter where you grade them objectively, there's always a spot for them to be here. There's always an opportunity. And that is the beauty of doing it this way. And one of the big things to finish off with, it removes the guesswork. And there's nothing worse. And I've been there and done it. We sit there in front of mums and dads in pre-season or at the end of the season and saying your son and daughter's got to come back and trial again, or we're not going to keep them on. And they say, why not? And then we start with the communication, I call it babble, the rubbish, the words that come out is just backed off subjective opinions, and you haven't got a real answer. Can you imagine it being at a club? You've already got your letters done for all of your players to say, yeah, you know you're already currently with us on a 3 to 5 year development plan, but just to let you know, you're going to come back in pre-season. We need to get one more objective piece of data from you. As it stands currently, you're still in the top team, but that may change when we come into pre-season, not because Tommy, who's a painter and decorator, who's a new volunteer coach, who's now sponsoring the club for $10,000, now needs his son in the top team. It's backed up objective data. Now, to finish off and close this one off, do we need on this particular one, do we need, with all respect, like superstar coaches? Do we need coaches who've worked in the Premier League to do this objective testing? No. You just need a structure and a strategy. And once you've got the structure and the strategy in place, you can then get volunteer coaches to run this for you. And in turn, your volunteer coaches and technical directors are going to look phenomenal because the data can't be argued. It cannot be disputed. Now, if you're probably wondering how long does it take to do one of these, I'm going to give you a very quick explainer before we go to the next part of our live call here today. But you would need, with a group of 16 or 18 players in a squad, one coach could grade the whole squad of players in around about 50 to 60 minutes. So could you imagine if over a 3-week period you run this test over 3 weeks? That way you're throwing out all the excuses of, oh, my son was sick on the night you done it, he didn't sleep well, unfortunately his nan passed away and we went to a funeral that day and he wasn't in a great mood. So what you could do is for 4 weeks, you could run this for 4 weeks, give it to the coaches, they run it for 4 weeks, you get 4 test scores, and then you equal out an average score on that player. So if they've scored 100, then they get 100 again, then they get 90, and then 90, well, the average is going to be 95, okay? And that way, there's no arguments or two ways about it. That's currently where they sit on their testing protocol. When you then input the 100 test scores for the 100 players who play in the under-14s girls within your club, you know who the top 15 players are based off that objective testing. Now, there is certain factors that need to come into play, okay? You need a goalkeeper. You need, players to play on the pitch who are playing outfield. But if you're dealing with players who are 14s and below, it shouldn't be about positions. It should be about developing players in multiple positions, excluding probably goalkeepers, okay? So it's just going to give you also that piece of paper and that evidence and data when you've got to go to a mum or dad to say they're not in the top team anymore, or they're not in the second team, they've got to be in the third team. There's no argument about it. And then when they go, okay, what have they got to do to get better and to get back in to that next level, into that team? Well, I'm going to show you very quickly before we go. And I'll just do a little bit of magic on here, and I'll just share it with you what you need to do. What you would do is you then build them a plan. And when you build them a plan, and when you're looking at the plan for them, if you're currently on our Soccer Pathway Pro with us, what you would do is within the classroom, one of the things you would give the feedback would be, you need to work on your football objectives. Well, where are the football objectives? It's in section 5. Also, you need to go in the football blueprint. I've got a little bit of concern, maybe it could be to do with sleep. So within the football blueprint, you can log sleep, but also you need to follow your 4 turns and your 4 dribbles. And also they need to work technically a bit more, because where they're falling down at the moment is the technical aspects of the game. Where can we get that? It's inside the football blueprint. So when you go in the football blueprint, it's all in for you. So this will show you and give you the ability to be able to, as a club, to be able to direct players where they need to go to get better. And that is the beauty on having objective testing. Now, if you're part of a club, or you're a mum and dad, or you're a player, and you've enjoyed this section and this part of the call, and you think, yeah, I'd love this at my club, I'd love you to come and visit us. Guys, I'm serious. Wherever you are in the world, USA, Canada, Oz, New Zealand, wherever you are, get your club to reach out to me. If they're absolutely serious about doing it and doing it properly, I would come to a club and run this for free to help a club put it into place. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed that. We are going to go Raymond Wood at the Raymond Wood podcast. We are super excited again as ever to bring you our next episode, and we are flying today all the way from Australia, all the way to Missouri in the USA, and I'm going to introduce our guest, and we've got Lauren Lewis joining us today. Lauren, how are you?
I'm pretty good. Glad to be here.
Thank you for joining us. So just to give everyone a little bit of context, I met Lauren on our school platform. The school communities are huge. We've got, I think there's around over 200,000 communities on school at the moment, and it's growing. There's about 22 million people on school, and we're obviously a very small dot in the ocean with our soccer platform. And yet me and Lauren got chatting, I believe it was over a post, and it was really ironic that we noticed that one of Lauren's missions and in her bio, and it's quite interesting, I'm going to read the bio out, but she does reflective journaling, habit practices that prioritise consistency. And everyone who's on our Soccer Pathway Pro programme, one of the big things we've been speaking about over the past couple of weeks and months has been journaling and our football blueprints, trying to create habits and making sure we prioritise getting consistent. So hopefully, Lauren, I got that right. That's what's in your bio and that's what you do. Is that right?
Yep, that's right.
Amazing. Now, before we jump into all of the really meaty questions I want to get into with you, and how I think you, with your experience and background, can help not only some of our players, but also most of some of our parents as well as they approach with things like this. Can you give us a little bit of a background and story and tell me a bit about your backgrounds and what did you do before you started doing this?
Yeah, so before this, and even now, I was immersed in wellness and personal growth, especially fitness. But alongside that, I was also a full-time stay-at-home mom. And that changed everything because it's one thing to talk about discipline in theory. It's a complete other to try and maintain habits when the day isn't yours. When you're tired, when routines get disrupted constantly. I didn't build habits to optimize my life. I built them to stay grounded inside of it. So that's really where my work comes from.
Yeah, amazing. It's funny, where we built our platform, it was based around the single mum or dad or the busy parents who just don't have enough time at all. And this was the whole reason we built our platform on school, so we could build a remotely based system where we can help mums and dads around the globe. And it's funny when you talk about trying to prioritize, you just don't have time for yourself sometimes, and you've got to get it into order.
Yeah, for sure.
So what originally led you into the space? Like, was there a particular turning point or experience that shaped your philosophy?
Mostly out of necessity. So as a stay-at-home mom, I realized if I didn't intentionally create rhythm in my day, I would lose myself in everyone else's needs. And I just couldn't rely on motivation alone. I couldn't rely on perfect mornings. I needed small, sustainable practices that worked inside the chaos. So that's when reflection became less about journaling for self-expression and more about anchoring myself.
And when you talk about reflection and journaling, is this something that you encourage people to do like once a day, once a week? Like where would you start with it?
Well, I do it once a day. But to start with, and this is really had a lot to do with my habit building, of course, was the experimentation with building my journaling habit, along with other little things. Like I would take my practice of building that and apply it to other things in my life. But the journaling was huge for me because of the reflection aspect of it. So now I do it once a day, but before it was whenever I could, because like I said, you can't rely on motivation. It has to be something that you're doing intentionally. So I knew it was something I wanted to do, and I really just fought for it intentionally until it became daily. And that was what was important to me. I prioritized that I eventually wanted to do it daily. And now I'm trying to focus on making it a twice a day thing, but I have perfected my once daily routine.
Amazing. I struggled with this, and I discovered journaling a couple of years ago, and I had to get to the point where I had to book it into my calendar as an entry for 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I was just brushing it off, and I get to the end of the day and I'm like, I'll do it tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes.
Yeah, no, I've actually told people whenever they've asked, like, if there's something they're having, it's challenging to get into their schedule, but it's not necessarily something they would do on a regular basis. It's easy to just brush off, no, I'll do it tomorrow. I've actually said, put it in your calendar like you're booking an appointment with yourself. Give it the time block. So even when you're planning stuff for your week or your day or whatever, that time is already blocked off.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Now, one of the big things that we get, and I get this like with our players on the program, when we have our journal, which is called the Football Blueprint, they have to record in things like sleep. They have to record in the wellness, so when they wake up in the morning, how they feel. And there's a fair bit of stuff for them to do. And obviously kids are under a lot of pressure with school and that. And obviously, too much on the plate, burnout. But from your point of view, have you always been able to be disciplined? Or have you ever struggled at any point in your life? And have you burnt out trying to keep on top of this?
I've always had the capacity for discipline, but obviously motherhood humbled that pretty quickly. You can't operate on intensity when you're sleep deprived and in the midst of ever changing routines. So I had to move from pushing through to returning gently. So that shift from force to rhythm is what I teach now.
Very good, very good. So in regards to one of the things, I'm going to give you a little bit of a curveball question, but I'm familiar with habits, and if you get consistent with habits, you build them habits. But have you ever noticed, or have you seen when people start to build bad habits and don't realise it? And how do you get out of that? And have you ever experienced that yourself, where you find yourself down a track with bad habits?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's where the reflection comes in, and I think that's where the daily reflection, no matter what capacity you're doing it in, whether it's 5 minutes or an entire journaling session, 30 minutes to an hour, whatever that may look like for you. But daily reflection is where that comes in. You're pointing out to yourself the things that you don't like. Like, what did I do yesterday that brought me back? You know, and that's what is important to me now, like constantly reflecting on what worked, what didn't work. And that's what I help other people with as well. Okay, well, if you didn't like it, what about it can you change, you know?
Yeah, that reflection's key. I love that one, and that's a great one. Apologies if you think I'm looking down, but I'm scribbling notes as I go as well, because I love learning new stuff as well, and I'm writing notes, and I've got a live call with all of our athletes around the planet an hour after we finish. And I love that one about reflection. It's a great one.
Yeah.
We were recently speaking, we speak a lot to our players and families about focusing on bite-sized bits of learning and processes rather than outcomes. Mm-hmm. So as you'd be aware, for an outcome for a soccer player might be scoring a goal, but they just focus too much on that instead of focusing on the small bits. And it's funny when you talk about that reflection, it's so relevant. Trying to just reflect and focus on the small wins every day, and not focus on that big goal.
Yeah.
So what season of life are you in right now? Business, personal growth, career transition, where are you at?
I'm in a building season, but also a grounded one. I say no a lot more, which took me a while to get there. I'm a natural born people pleaser. I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with that. I am more aware now of what works for me and what doesn't. I'm still pretty much a full-time mom. I mean, my child doesn't go to school all day yet, so, that's a big priority to me. So my business has to exist inside that, not outside of it. For a long time, I tried to make them two separate things, and that did not work. So everything I build has to be sustainable.
I love that. I remember growing up, and I was very fortunate to live with Nan and Grandad for about 5 years, and my granddad was someone I really idolised and looked up to. And he said to me, the greatest thing I'll ever teach you is the word no, and learn to say no to people. And I used to look at him and think he was so strange saying it. And now at the age of 46, I'm like, I learned no about 4 years ago. And it was the best word I ever learned, was to say no sometimes. Mm-hmm. I'm very similar. I'm the biggest empath. I say yes to everyone normally. I have a battle in my head now when I want to say yes, but I'm like, no, you've got to say no.
Well, I mean, I've thought about it a lot lately, and I feel like from my generation anyway, as a kid to a teenager, young adult, it was very much part of the culture to, get yourself outside of your own box and out of your comfort zone and say yes to more things. And so we were really taught the culture of say yes, 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 yes. You never know what opportunity might come your way. That's ingrained in you, thinking, oh, if I say no, what am I hindering myself from? What opportunities am I missing? And so it's important to discern like what you should say yes to.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's so true. Now, moving on a little bit to your work and philosophy, who do you normally sort of work with, and what are they usually struggling with? If you could give us a couple of examples when they come to you.
Yeah, honestly, I do think that my framework can work for just about everybody. It's not limited because it is very individualized. But I primarily work with capable, self-aware women, many of them mothers or leaders. They don't necessarily lack discipline, they just lack sustainability. And they usually come to me frustrated because they start strong, they can follow a plan, but if they miss one day, they spiral. And they struggle with all or nothing thinking, which I've been there, done that, guilt after inconsistency, overcommitting, losing themselves inside all of their responsibilities. And they don't need more motivation. They just need a way to return to their routines and whatever they have set out to accomplish without all the drama.
Yeah, I love that one. I think it's actually centering them back into what's actually really important in that moment, and not getting caught up in the cables and the wires, as I always say, because we can get so caught up sometimes. Now, one of the big things we get, it's really hard convincing some of our players and athletes and families, and sometimes it's not, but we get a little bit of resistance about journaling, trying to get consistent, doing everything, writing it down. We're in the era now of technology and everyone just wants to click a button, and it drives me insane. And I'm all for technology and I love school, but we get our players to download our football blueprint as a PDF, and they've got to handwrite it and then take a picture of it and then submit it. For you, what's the biggest misconception about people about journaling and habit formation that you found?
Well, and this is why I'm so passionate about it. Like when I talk to people about journaling, you can instantly see like the interest in their eyes go away. So it's funny we're having this conversation. It's just that journaling has to be emotional or aesthetic or profound to count, and it doesn't. Journaling is just awareness training. It's pattern tracking. It's catching your internal narrative before it runs you. And with habits, the biggest misconception is that consistency means never missing. And it doesn't. Consistency is about how quickly you recover.
Yeah, I love that one. I worked on one of soccer's biggest football projects with the Premier League and the English Football Association in 2011, and I was on it for about 4 or 5 years. And from 2011 till today, they've spent £2.1 billion on this project, and it was how to develop superstars. And one of the biggest, most interesting things that we discovered was the link back into education, and it was the link back into journaling and diaries and reflection. But it was really interesting. It was all about what we discovered was when you focus on just writing your diary out and reflecting on what you've done for that day, on the pitch and off the pitch, we actually found it formed focus. And when you form focus, you form habits. And it was so ironic that we were learning from education and school teachers on how to develop a superstar athlete. Because in the past, we were like, why would you listen to a primary school teacher or a high school teacher? And I think this is where the US have always had it right. You look at the college systems in the US, and all of the top athletes come out of the D1 colleges. And that's, I think, because they have that linkage between school and sport. And it's so good. So when you say like consistency, recovery, self-trust, what does that actually look like in practice?
Consistency in practice looks like showing up imperfectly. Recovery looks like missing a day and not turning it into a personality flaw. And self-trust, that looks like keeping small promises long enough that your nervous system actually believes you again. So for a full-time mom, especially, consistency might mean 5 minutes of reflection instead of 30, or movement at home instead of a full gym workout. Returning after a chaotic week without any guilt. It's flexible steadiness.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to move on quickly, so I know we are moving on a little bit with time, but one of the big things is that we focus on building a pathway or a framework for our program to follow. So when we talk about you, Lauren, when you teach a specific framework or methods, if so, what's it called and how do you make it work?
Yeah, so this might be the lengthiest part of this because I've got a lot of information to give you.
Go for it. We've got 10 or 15 minutes to go.
So I teach what I call the habit reset. It's the name of my community on school as well. It's simple and repeatable. I do it in 4 steps. So first, you notice the pattern. Second, we'll name your non-negotiables, your daily non-negotiables. 3, we'll create a perfect routine. And I actually call that my milkshake principle. And we can dive into that a little bit after this if you want me to.
I love milkshakes. That sounds good.
Yeah. And 4, have a plan B for your off days. The power isn't about intensity. It's in shortening the gap between where you fall off and re-engaging. And that's how habits, they stop feeling fragile. And within that framework, there are 3 ideas that flow beautifully together in the habit reset. So you anchor them under one theme of self-trust isn't built through intensity. It's built through follow-through. And those 3 ideas are the power of non-negotiables and keeping promises to yourself, why avoidance makes things bigger than they are, and consistency builds self-trust. So idea number 1, the power of non-negotiables and keeping promises to yourself. For me, non-negotiables aren't about discipline. They're about your identity. And non-negotiable is something that it proves to you that your word matters. It's not a massive routine. It's not a 10-step morning protocol. It can be something like 5 minutes of reflection, a short walk, drinking water right after you wake up in the morning. When you keep even one small promise to yourself consistently, it shifts something internally. So you stop outsourcing your stability to motivation. And motivation is a lie anyway. We could dive into that, but that's how I feel about motivation. You become someone who just you follow through, and that changes how you show up everywhere else. The second idea of why avoidance makes things bigger than they are. Avoidance doesn't make things disappear, it just makes them expand. So when we avoid things like having a conversation, creating a habit, or completing a task, we add imagination to it, we catastrophize, we attach meaning, we build a narrative. And the longer we avoid something, the heavier it feels. So even if the actual action would just take 5 minutes, So avoidance creates emotional inflation, whereas reflection deflates it. And when you sit with something and you name it honestly, it usually shrinks it back to its actual size. So,
I love that.
Yeah. And then the third idea, consistency builds self-trust. Self-trust it's not confidence, it's evidence. And it's built when your nervous system sees I say I'll do something and I do. It's not perfect, it's not daily, it's reliable. And consistency it's not about never missing, it's about shortening the gap. I think I said this before, it's shortening the gap between missing and then returning. So every time you come back without all this drama, you reinforce that trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, you don't need external pressure as much. And that's the shift that I focus on inside my community. So just to tie it up in a pretty little package, non-negotiables create structure, facing challenges reduces fear, consistency builds trust and confidence. So when people learn how to return quickly instead of spiraling, everything changes.
I love that. I think it's all about returning back very, very quickly, and it's so important that we try and teach this off the pitch to our players to recognise moments when they spiral. We've just gone through a 7-week course of mental strength training, which is one of the courses within our platform. And it teaches that to recognise in that moment when normally you spiral, because as you know in sports, you only have milliseconds to fix something sometimes, and it's really hard. And if you can't do it in your day-to-day life, when you're sat at home thinking, you've got no chance on a sports field. So talk to me about milkshake. I love chocolate malt. What do you like?
All right, so my milkshake theory, I have this theory that years ago, I used to make protein smoothies. I say years ago, probably only like 2 years ago. I used to make protein smoothies because they were good for me. But I hated them. The flavor was awful. And, but I spent the money on the protein and all that. They're technically optimized, high protein, low sugar, perfectly balanced, but I didn't enjoy them. So I wouldn't drink them consistently. My product would just sit in the pantry and, basically be a waste. So one day I realized I need the perfect smoothie. I just need one I'll actually drink. So I started adding what I liked. Maybe a little extra fruit, maybe some sweetener, still protein, still nourishing, but enjoyable. And suddenly I was consistent. So the point of that is most people are trying to build a perfect routine, the perfect morning routine, perfect workout plan, perfect productivity system. But if it doesn't fit your actual life or personality, you're not going to stick with it. So the question isn't what's optimal, it's what will I actually sustain? And that's the milkshake. You keep the core nutrition, but you custom the flavor.
I love that. I'm going to write this down. This is going to be a real good topic of conversation in my live call today, because I know for me, I've got a terrible sweet tooth. And when we talk milkshake, I was intrigued. My eyes lit up. I think speaking to our athletes, who we've got all around the world, the minute we mention milkshake is the secret key, they're all going to be interested.
Well, you're welcome.
I will definitely steal that one on you, and
Yeah.
I'll write a little note underneath to say it belongs to Lauren Lewis. It's the milkshake theory, so you've got the copyright.
I'm glad to share.
Now I want to finish off with this one. In the world of soccer, or football as we call it in England, we realised very early on in the piece that we were trying to do too much at the bottom. And what I mean by that is we were all trying to develop players individually, where we realised that if we start to mentor the technical directors better, they can mentor the coaches better, and then they can then develop more players. So it was a top-down approach. One of the things that I love about what you do, and I think this is the link that I've seen, I spend so much time helping my players. I think I need to spend more time finding amazing people like you to help my parents. So if there's any mums out there especially who are just struggling day to day, dealing with the 3 kids, the 4 kids, all the sports, how can they, if you could give them the number one top tip, apart from joining your platform, of course, what's the number one tip you could give them to stay on top of everything?
Just make the place to start. That's what I'm going to give you. The place to start is, what are your non-negotiables? And that is always what I ask people. If they're struggling with chaos and all that, what are your non-negotiables? Like, what are the things that when you wake up every day, or even when you go to bed every day, and you're like, you constantly are thinking, I never did that, I never did that, I never get to do this. What are those things that keep popping up for you that you wish you could do? And if you did nothing else, whether it's on a daily basis or a weekly basis, no matter what the schedule is for you, if you did nothing else and that one thing, or if it's 2 or 3, whatever, obviously you want to make it small enough that you're not overwhelming. But that's what you are making that promise to yourself, and you're keeping that promise. So yeah, what are your non-negotiables?
Love that. I love that one, and I'm sure that's going to resonate a lot with the parents, and especially the mums of all the players we work with. Now, to finish off, obviously, if anyone wants to join you on the journey and they want to jump into school, I mean, how do they do that? What are the costs involved, and what's the commitment-wise that they have to do to join you?
Right now, I've actually only had my school community for five or 6 weeks now. So it's still a free community. I've started doing a couple of challenges with my members just to, you know, get people involved. Obviously, I have goals to build on that, but I just haven't implemented anything yet. It's still a free community.
That's amazing. I think that word beginning with F3, everyone's going to be so excited with that one. And I think it's important for those guys to maybe jump on that while it still is free, because all of a sudden it could be a paid community and then all of a sudden, yeah, it hits them in the pocket. So am I okay to share your link with everyone on the bio on the podcast? Is that okay if I can cross-share your bio to everyone?
Absolutely. Amazing. I have so much information I want to share with people. So, yeah.
That's so good. Well, look, Lauren, it's been amazing. A big thank you from me, the Raymond Woods, all the way over in Brisbane in Australia. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And I'd love to maybe in 6 to 12 months' time touch base with you again and get you back on and maybe delve into another milkshake moment or really delve into a particular area, because I've got a couple of ideas I'm thinking you could really be useful and help our community as well. So we'd love to have you back if that's okay.
Absolutely, I'd love that.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Well, Lauren, you have a lovely day in Missouri, and I believe it's the evening there on Friday. Yeah. It's Saturday morning here, so we're about to kickstart our day. But yeah, a big thank you for joining us, Lauren, and we look forward to speaking to you very soon.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Big thank you for everyone who's been tuning in. We are going to be back in another 7 days' time with our next episode of the Raymond Wood podcast. And as again, in the show notes below, we will put the bio and we'll put all of Lauren's information in there if you are interested in joining us. We hope you have an amazing weekend, and we look forward to seeing you all on our next episode. Be a couple of months to convince you of that, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, because this has been sort of like a 3-year sort of journey for us. We're always wanting to go back to the UK to reconnect with family and that, but yeah, we just weren't sure when we met you how the program would work and how it would benefit Charlotte, knowing that we were going back to the UK and that your program was sort of set up in Australia, so we weren't sure how it was going to work. So yeah,
because
it's been one of the.
Oh, sorry, Ray. As you know, I am British and the kids are British, so we've wanted them to reconnect with my side of the family over there. So it's kind of been a 2-3 year plan, and then you came into our world and obviously know Charlotte and her football and wanted to help us with that, and so being able to do the plan here and then take that with us is just going to be amazing to do that remotely. Yeah,
it was one of the things I felt like banging Ben's head against the wall sometimes. It was like, your wife's British, your kids are British, they've got passports, and I know you're going back for family reasons, and I know you're looking to go back for work, but trust me, this program works no matter where you are on the planet. So I'm so happy you did eventually join us on the program. Now, from a mum and dad's perspective, I'll probably ask this one to Nikki first. Being the mum, how have you found it's helped Charlotte over the past couple of years with the football? What's the one big thing for you?
Yeah, I think more so much not only for school factor side of things and, with having the GPS tracking and honing in on the statistic side of football, they celebrate more on the football side of things. But for me, her mental game has improved a lot, and having, that not only the resilience, but seeing where she can achieve with other academies in England as well, because all the statistics are on there with their GPS tracking. So you can do well here and know you well, but to see all the stats and compare and gauge where you're at is good. And also just the experience that you give her, that 1% to 5% of extra, information or experience that you've had that teach her other things on the field to help improve her game has just been fantastic as well. But we'll go more into the football. That's just, for me, I think her mental game has improved a lot, and having all those stats to go along with it and compare to not only people in Australia, but like you said, academies in England or around the world, and just gauge where you're at. Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you for that. It's such good to have that sort of different point of opinion, because I know mums and dads and families don't always think the same, and it's good that you've got those different opinions, and it's good that, it's evident to us when we first discovered Charlotte how well-rounded she is, and I think it's thanks and it's a testament, because I know, having 2 daughters as well, there's a lot of hard work that goes into these kids, and we dote on them, and we just want to give them an opportunity, and I just want to say on camera as well, like I was super proud I am of you guys as well, because I know what you two have gone through over the past couple of years, and more so Ben as well. Like, you know, the stuff that you go to on a daily basis, just trying to support your kids in a dream, and it's a testament to you, Nikki and Ben, and I'm so proud of what you've done with it.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray. Ben, so what's your opinion? Like, what's the one big thing that you've seen? And I know, Ben, you're not just the parent, but I know you're also a coach as well. Like, what's been the one big thing for you for maybe any other parents who are considering joining a pro player, Papa? What's the one key thing that you've seen that's benefited?
Well, touching on what Nikki said, like the GPS tracking's been really good. Just to see, you know, I suppose the comparison overseas is the main thing, but she obviously loves wearing the GPS tracker, and she gets a lot of joy out of seeing how she goes from session to session, especially in games. It's obviously tracking distances, how many Ks she runs in a game, and then, you know, she's able to say to me, "Oh, Dad, look, I ran X amount of Ks in this match," and you just see the improvement. But it's got her in a better mindset too on how to look at the game. Like before we were on your program, obviously we're playing for a club, and they don't go to the meticulous detail that you do. Things like healthy eating, looking after your body, recovery after you've done a heavy session, making sure that we're even doing recovery, running type work so she's able to get the miles in her legs, but also able to recover those muscles after, you know, having a tough session or a long game. It's just the meticulous detail that go within the program. Like you've talked to us about the 7 pillars that you have, and obviously match analysis is one of those things in that program as well, which I've found really helpful, because as a coach I can look at it from the other side of the fence as well as a parent, and you can sort of look at where her game is going, which is going in a really good direction. But there's things that I picked up in those match analysis that I didn't really think of, but when I go looking back at footage, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And like some of them sort of semi-major things, and then other things are just like little things we just need to change and tinker, tweak. And it just made a huge difference to her overall performance. So
That's amazing. It's so good to have those two different perspectives from both you and Nikki. Now, Nikki, just because a lot of people will be interested in this, but obviously when I did speak to Ben, when I first met Ben a couple of years ago, and he explained that he didn't want to join the program because you had plans to go back for family reasons back home, because you're originally from the UK, and you were looking at potentially going back for work. But can you tell all of our listeners and followers where originally you are from in the UK?
So I'm from Birkenhead. So anyone that doesn't know where that is, Liverpool, Mersey River, Birkenhead.
So I was like super secretly excited when I found that out when I first met you, and obviously I first met Charlotte and I seen her running around in an Everton jersey, and I'm like, no.
From my uncle, said that, the one Evertonian in the family.
Because obviously we do have a lot of good contacts in the game in the UK, but also around Europe as well. But I was super pleased to discover that when I found out from Ben many years ago that the plan was 2024 to head back to the UK, but also to be in and around the Liverpool area. It made me feel super excited, thinking that maybe one day we could help you open up an opportunity, whether it was at Tranmere Rovers or Everton or Liverpool. So it really, really pleased me. Now, Ben, obviously you are Australian, and obviously you're going back to be with your wife who's from the UK, and the kids have got British passports. Are you excited to go and live in the UK?
Yeah, I am. I'm really excited. It's going to be a great journey for our family. Just a new experience. Obviously, I've met a few of Nikki's family, but I'll be able to meet all of them. Obviously, it's just going to be a great experience. And I've been a football supporter, fan, player.
Before you met me.
Before I met Nikki, and obviously the home of football. It's going to be good to immerse myself, go to a few games, and obviously, you know, just get to know Nikki's heritage really, and the kids are really excited about it as well. So
Now, I know this growing up in Liverpool, but it's football crazy. Nikki knows it because she's from there as well, and I think you get it as well, Ben. But this is one of the tricky ones that can be quite controversial sometimes, but I say to a lot of families that, like, if you really aspire for your son or daughter to make it as a football player, there comes a point in time where, for me, you've got to move to Europe, because if I had a son or daughter who was playing rugby league and you were to ask me where's the best place for them to live and play, I would say Australia, 100%, without a doubt. But if you're playing football, for me, whether you've got a son or daughter, I would definitely say you need them to be in Europe, in Spain, in England. We're just very, very fortunate. I think you guys feel privileged and lucky, Ben, the fact that you're already planning to head back for family reasons and for work, that Charlotte now actually gets to finish her little last bit of development, playing and training in England. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, we are. You know, she loves playing football, and we just want what's best for her. You know, and I just think the development that she'll get in a country that lives and breathes and immerses themselves in football, and it would just benefit her. Yeah.
What's one of the things, Nikki, just to finish off, we've got a few minutes to go, but what's one of the things that you're looking forward to for Charlotte in her development in her football in England, whether she goes on and plays for Liverpool, Everton, whoever she goes on and plays for when she's older? What's the one big thing that you wish for her?
Oh, look, and purely speaking from a mother's perspective, because I'm not as football mad as you lot are, but I think for me, just to, you know, she always gives 100%, if not more, in all that she does, and just for her to be happy and do what she loves and, you know, give it a red hot crack. And yeah, I think she'll succeed in anything that she does, because she's always had a good head on her shoulders and she works hard. And I think if she makes it, fantastic. If she doesn't, I think she's still going to be around in football in some capacity, because she lives and breathes it and it's her passion. Yeah.
I've told her 100% if she doesn't make it as a pro footballer when she's older, she's got a job with me at Euro Football Spot.
Done deal.
So Ben, as a dad, who I know I do it as well, we dote on our daughters and we'll do anything for them. What's the one thing that you really wish for Charlotte in the next couple of years?
I suppose coming over to England, I think some of the differences between the English game and the Australian game is like physicality. And I think the thing I'd like to see in her is obviously work out how to combat that, and just work really hard, because you know, but she's got a great base, but I just think you know, being in such a great environment in the UK, I just think she's going to go from strength to strength with playing against good players, whatever league she plays in, and also just the coaching I think is going to be first class, and I just think it's going to take her game to the next level, whichever level she plays at, you know.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think I shared this with you guys on the phone a couple of years ago when I went back to the UK, and I hadn't seen the girls and the women's game in England for probably 5 or 6 years because of COVID and everything that went on. And for someone who coached in the WSL, and I coached Leicester City's women's team for the season going back over 10 years ago, to see the level it's at now, I've just been blown away. I just cannot believe where the girls and the women's game's gone, and I'm so excited for Charlotte to be lucky, the fact that, one, she is British and she's got a passport, she's going back for family reasons, and you guys are in a fortunate position to be able to do that, but also for it to be able to go and live and breathe and just to finish off that development. And wherever Charlotte ends up, I'm convinced she's going to be a success in football. I think she's going to be a success as a player, and I think, to be honest, I think Charlotte's got a bigger picture than this. I think she's going to do something even bigger than playing when she's older, and if I've got it my way, she'll be heavily involved with us, helping us promote the women's game and the girls' game, and making people realise that anything's possible with hard work.
Absolutely. She's a pretty special kid, even off the football pitch.
She is. I've been very, very fortunate to work closely with you guys and to see the effort that you guys put in, and I'm very blessed myself with my girls, and you know, just seeing Charlotte and her effort level she puts in, and just seeing her videos on a daily basis and everything I've asked her to do, she's gone above and beyond, and I just feel privileged to be involved in a small percent of helping her to hopefully achieve that dream in the next couple of years. And yeah, it's going to be super exciting. So before I let you go, guys, because I know it's Saturday night and you're probably going to be heading out, can I get a prediction from you for the Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund game? So Nikki, can I get a score prediction?
You're asking me.
Yes.
I'll go
So
with
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid.
What score do you think it's going to be?
Against who?
Borussia Dortmund.
2-1. Real Madrid.
2-1 to Real Madrid. Ben, you'll give me your analytical coach's view. What's the score?
It's going to be 3-1 to Real Madrid. And I think Bellingham will score the first goal.
Bellingham first goal, Real Madrid 3, Borussia Dortmund 1. I think one of you are going to be right. That's my prediction, 2-1 or 3-1. So look, guys, obviously I know I'll see lots of you because we get back to the UK 3 or 4 times a year. We're closely going to follow Charlotte because she's still on the pro player pathway until she's at least 16. She's on a scholarship with us. We hope to keep her on longer than that, but hopefully she doesn't need us past that. But look, a big thank you. It's been amazing having you guys on from a mum and dad's perspective. Not only to the benefits of the pro player pathway, but some of the things that you have gone through over the past couple of years. And a big thank you from me and everyone at Euro Football staff for being part of this programme as well.
Thanks, Ray. And as always, we appreciate your support of Charlotte and development too. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, so guys. That's me over and out from the Ravenswood podcast. A big thank you for joining us on this mini episode. A big thank you to Nikki and Ben. And we'll be in touch on our next episode in the next couple of weeks. Hi everyone, it's Ravenswood from the Ravenswood podcast. I am super excited to bring one of our players all the way beaming back live from Brisbane in Australia. I'm currently in London, in Wembley, ready for the Champions League final Saturday the 1st of June. And I believe we've got Maya Allsop on the line. Hey Maya, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Now for our listeners who are watching on in, can you just tell everyone your age, where you are from, and the position that you play?
Hi, I'm Maya Allsop. I'm currently 14 years old. I'll be turning 15 in July. And I'm living in Logan currently, and I play 6th edition.
Very good. Now, you've been involved in football since what age? What age did you start playing, Maya?
I started playing at 9.5 with my dad as my coach, so don't really know if that counts, but...
That's good. And you were from Yeppoon, which is up in central Queensland by Rockhampton originally, and you played community-based football. Now, just to explain the reason why we've got you on our podcast and why we're doing this mini episode, is just to show with a little bit of hard work and consistency on how anyone can make it as a football player if they follow our pathway. Now, we obviously met your mum through Gary Skinner, who was one of your coaches. And I'll just get it on record. Unfortunately, Gary Skinner is a Chelsea fan. So he's not a Liverpool fan like me and Maya. Just to remind Gary Skinner of that one. Now, you obviously, I worked with Gary Skinner up in central Queensland many years ago. And I was introduced to your mum and to yourself through Gary, and he said he was a player up in central Queensland that had a little bit of potential, but needed some help with the football. Now, we actually got you onto our professional player pathway just under 12 months ago. So for everyone who's listening in, can you just tell us a little bit about how you found the programme and what's been some of the best parts so far?
So, I was training with Gary and he told me about you, and I was so excited and I was so thankful that I was part of the program. It's just so amazing. It's helped me immensely. Like, my training's gone from only 2 training sessions a week to up to 14, 15 hours, which is amazing. And then I've gotten this opportunity to move to Brisbane from Yeppoon and play at such a high level.
and it's just helped me improve so much. The portal, it's so great. It shows me what objectives I need to work on before my games and stuff like that. It's just amazing overall.
So from your opinion, May, this is a program that you believe anyone can work from anywhere on the planet? Is that what you're saying?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, for our listeners and people watching this podcast and tuning in, we've got a remotely based program called the Professional Player Pathway. And on the Professional Player Pathway, players from the ages of about 8 and 9 all the way through to 23 years of age can join us. We've got 7 pillars to the program. The reason why the program was created and designed was by me. I've worked in the game of football for over 25 years. I've worked for some of the biggest teams like Liverpool, Leicester City, Paris Saint-Germain. I used to work for some of the biggest coaches in the game. I used to work for Carlo Ancelotti, who's now the Real Madrid coach, when I was in France. Also, we've been heavily involved in the world game and developing players all around the planet. Now, one of the big things that we wanted to make sure people were aware of as well is that this program can be done from anywhere in the world. Everything is done remotely based. And just to prove the proof's in the pudding, so we discovered you, Maya, in sunny central Queensland where it's very hot and sticky. You were playing community-based football, and you've since gone direct, isn't it? You couldn't be playing with Logan.
Yes, and amazing.
In the MPL. And then one of the things that we do and offer as one of the pillars on the program is once you've hit a certain benchmark of objectives and you have been completing your objectives to make it and show to us that you're at a standard good enough to go for a trial to the UK and Europe. Have you, can you explain a little bit about what's happening with you next year and where you're going?
So next year I'm going to be going over and I'm going to be trialing or just visiting, seeing everything in the UK. It's going to be amazing and going to put in the training in the asset.
Amazing. So just for, again, those listeners and people watching this, Maya is going to be going on some trials in January to the UK, but also she's going to be going on trials in June, July as well to France and Spain. Maya is one of our more successful players who's really getting through the program and getting through the objectives. And once you get to a certain benchmark, we then open up opportunities for players. One of the big things that we don't do is just open up opportunities for players just because players tell us they're good enough or because their mum and dad tell us they're good enough. It gives us an indication of where they're at and how good they are. We can actually ascertain the level that players are at. And then once we see certain benchmarks are met on the 7 pillars of the program, we can then open up the trials. So I want to ask you, Maya, the UK in January, where it's like middle of summer and it's freezing cold here at the moment, or going to Spain and France in June, July, is there a particular country you're really looking forward to go on trial?
I can't teach. It's just, that's hard. Well, I've always wanted to go to the UK and stuff like that. Liverpool is a dream of mine, and although PSG was my favourite team, I think Liverpool's overcome that, and it's definitely going to be the UK trip.
That's amazing. So hopefully, once you get your across on the trials next year, we can open up 1 or 2 opportunities for you, and then by the time you're 16 years of age, the plan is to be playing professional football in Europe. Is that the dream?
Definitely, yeah.
And I'm sure Mum's going to want to go with you and live overseas in Europe as well, isn't she?
Yeah, I think so.
Now, before we let you go and we finish off, mate, we've got a couple of minutes to go, but just for our listeners listening in, and especially for any young girls watching, do you recommend this program to players who are watching this?
Yeah, of course. It's just amazing help. Without it, I definitely wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to go overseas and do, complete my dreams and do stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely a good thing to get on.
That's amazing. And are you going to be okay with your mum following you all around Europe, following your career?
Yeah, I couldn't have done it without it either, so.
Oh, that's amazing. So a big thank you, mate, for joining us for this mini podcast. We wish you well. Obviously, we're going to be monitoring your journey. And for those guys who are watching and listening in as well, once a player makes it and they get an opportunity into the UK and Europe and they're with a pro club or on a scholarship opportunity, the journey's not over on the pro player pathway. You're on the programme for a minimum of 4 years. We do have bumps sometimes in the road. We have obstacles we have to get over. We have had players who are on the programme have been released from clubs, and part of this pro player pathway is to open up more opportunities. So if things don't always go to plan, we can assist and help. So we wish you well, Mayor. We're super excited. We're so happy to have you on the programme, and we look forward to watching your football career develop over the next couple of years.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, Mayor, before you go, I'm going to ask you one more question. Big game tonight. Real Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund. Can you give me a score prediction? And also, can you even tell me who you think the first goal scorer might be?
So, I'm a big Real Madrid fan, so I'm going to say a 2-1 win for us, and I think Jude Bellingham's going to score the first goal.
Okay, so you heard it here first, guys. Jude Bellingham, first goal. Real Madrid 2, Borussia Dortmund 1. And I think that's going to make a lot of Real Madrid fans happy if that's the case.
Definitely.
So a big thank you, Mayor. Stay safe, keep well, say hello to Mum and Dad, and we'll be in touch over there the coming weeks.
Hi everyone, it's Raymond Wood. A big thank you for joining us today. As ever, we've got another amazing podcast all the way back from sunny England, and we've got Gordon McCallan joining us. Gordon, how are you?
I'm very good, thanks.
Now, Gordon, you were first brought to my attention, as most of our followers know, we work in football, or soccer as it's called here in Australia, and we helped a player a couple of years ago achieve a dream and get to play for Liverpool, and I'm in regular contact with all of our players and parents. And this particular parent, he's a great guy, and he reached out to me and said that he'd seen you at Liverpool Football Club. So for all of our listeners and everyone watching in and tuning in, maybe a great way to start this episode would be basically what you were up to at Liverpool, if you can reveal that, and what it is you do day to day to help players and families.
Yeah, look, I mean, it was obviously a big thing for me as well, being a Liverpool supporter, which I'm always very open about, despite working with all these clubs. I mean, it was great to obviously visit. Yeah, I mean, look, we did a session with staff around, I think, just the importance of everybody working effectively together for young people. You know, we're not talking structures here, we're talking relationships, environments, things around young players that allow them to develop as players and as people. And the session, I'm glad the parent obviously enjoyed. We did an introduction to sports performance parenting, which we deliver in a lot of different environments, just looking at our actual role as a parent, and what that actually means. I mean, some people think, well, you're telling people how to parent. Well, no, we're not. We're actually painting pictures for people to have a greater self-awareness of how to support performance. And I think there's a big difference there between those two things. So yeah, cracking evening, and hopefully we'll be back in the future.
Yeah, amazing. As I say, I spoke to Ben, one of the parents, one of the girls who's at Liverpool, and I think from an Australian moving to the UK and experiencing like the levels, like they've been blown away, because I'm not sure if you're fully aware, but the game's in a little bit of disarray on this side of the world, in Australia and New Zealand, and it's not done to the levels that it gets done in England and in Europe. And every time there's something on, he's blown away by the level, and I'm like, this is actually quite stock standard for England. Like, this sort of stuff's been going on for 20 years. But after receiving 3 messages and 2 phone calls, I thought, right, we need to get Gordon on. So look, what we've done is, Gordon, we've actually put it out to our customers and all of our players and families that you were coming on, and we've got some questions in from some of them. So I'm going to shoot a few of the questions. That's probably the best way to go. And if you'd rather not answer, just say, can't answer. So one of them was a great one brought in from one of our families, and they said, like, a core problem they want you to help them with. From you working in grassroots all the way through to elite sport, what's one of the biggest single mistakes that you see well-intentioned parents make that actually limits the children from pushing on? is the one that you can really pinpoint that you don't think they're intentionally doing it, but it's a common one that you see.
Yeah, I think there's probably a couple of threads behind that for me. I think we should never underestimate the influence that we have as parents as the ultimate role models, and some of the things that young people need to be high performers. You know, I'm big on a lot of those building blocks young performers need, you know, commitment, resilience, the ability to make good decisions, adapt, be creative, organise themselves, communicate well with people. And a lot of their understanding of the sporting world from the younger stage comes from us as parents. They're a blank canvas. How we talk to them about sport, how we manage disappointment with them, what we value at home, what we deem as important are all vital in many ways shaping their future. Now, the challenge is, if you don't have a really good understanding of how young players develop and the fact that every journey is different and it happens at different stages, and all of the other bits that go around performance, I think you end up falling back to, well, this is just what we do in football based on what we watch on the TV. And how I support on a Saturday watching Premier League football is very different to how I would ever support with sort of two young kids in a pathway. And I think that without that support, they just get sucked into lots of external noise. And I think even, you know, in a world of comparison that we're growing up in, particularly for young people, you're lucky now because thankfully your country's shown some leadership on this. But I think with the advent of you know, social media and how people are comparing, parents are really bad at that. And the kids tell us that actually one of their top 3 things for when mum and dad are at their worst is when they get compared to other players. Now, it's the comparison where we just say, well, why were they able to do that and you weren't? And the kids aren't in control of it. There's no feedback attached to it. And it ends up just making them feel worse and worse. And actually, half the time, there was nothing they could have done at that particular point in time. It was just where they were at that stage of the journey. So I think there's challenges around our role modelling. I think the understanding of how we develop young players, and then just, I guess, this comparison piece, and that every journey is unique, and we've got to get really comfortable with that. There isn't a one-size-fits-all solution. If you and I knew that we could put it into a pill to create a professional player, we'd be richer than Elon Musk. So before anybody can tell you that, we don't. We just don't. We can just go on what we know, what we've seen, upgrades in coaching, education, sports science, in the hope that we might find that formula that we're looking for. But you couldn't just copy and paste it from one person to the next and assume, well, that worked for them, so this will work for me.
It's so true. The program that I've built over the last 25 years, the professional player pathway, I was very fortunate to work on the EPPP with the FA, and that's obviously, as you know, was in excess of a £2 billion project to date. And we've had 24 success stories come out of Australia and the USA. And we think we've got the magic pill, but what we've discovered is we've got 8 pillars to the programme. But only if you follow the 8 pillars and you follow it religiously and consistently for 10 years, you will spit out the other end. You might be a League 2 player or you might be a Premier League player, but what we're finding is so many of them fall by the wayside along the way because they're just not willing to put in the work and the effort. But also, I don't think the parents realise how much effort's required to get them there. And it's a tricky one. You've probably seen a lot of it as well in the time in the UK. Now, moving on from that, when we look at talent versus environment, this great question's a great one, again, from one of our parents. How much do you believe, Gordon, that on a player's success is actually down to talent? And how much do you think comes more from the environment that's created by parents and coaches? Which side of the camp are you in?
Well, I actually think the best are both. So yeah. I'm not really sitting on the fence there. Because, you know, and you see that, you know, I always moan about the lack of context in messaging that we see with random statements throughout, what's the one about talent, hard work will always beat talent if talent doesn't work. Well, that doesn't apply, because you could be the worst player that's never kicked a ball, and you could desperately want to be a professional footballer, and you could work harder than anybody else, but you're still not going to be good enough. So I don't buy into that sort of basic black and white narrative. What I do think is, if you have ability, for me, you still need to have those fundamental building blocks that I talked about earlier if you want to be successful as a performer. And I think that's created by the environment, and I think those character traits need to be developed. But I think we probably at a stage where we've got to be even more intentional with that. Many people used to think, sport, this naturally creates some of these traits. Well, yes, it can. But I think we're having to go, because of the changes in society, because of the changes with technology, because of the changes in modern day parenting, I think we're having to strip that noise away, push it to the side, because what hasn't changed is performance. And if you want to be a performer, you're going to have some talent, but you're also got to have to understand what holds that talent together and develop that alongside it. And I always say to parents, because we just haven't got any of these guarantees in the sports industry. I've got kids in Olympic programs who couldn't have done any more over the last decade, Raymond, and they still haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve. And they're lashing out to adults around them saying, well, you told me if I just did this, I'd get there in the end, and you told me that, and all of this. And actually really reframed what we're saying to them. We're only going to give ourselves the best chance, because that's all we can promise. And it's not about being negative. It's about making sure we've done everything we possibly can, with the fallback being, for me, that if we invest all this time into this process, which you're going to have to do, which and you don't quite get to where you want to be, what you have created is a brilliant person who will thrive in whatever walk of life they go into. And then I think it makes it really worthwhile. If we just sell that one success criteria, so many of us are going to be disappointed. It is what it is.
Yeah, I love that one, and I think if we understand that, there's a lot of successes along the way, and we speak a lot about processes versus outcomes, and being a lot more focused on processes in our program. And they actually, if you start recognizing processes as wins, when you get that big outcome like scoring a goal or getting selected for your team for next year, that also then doesn't get given that big hoo-ha like it normally does, because the players are so process focused. Now, the next one, I always laugh at this one, the sideline effect. I can remember being 10 years of age, going to watch my cousin, who was a very talented footballer, and he was playing in Kirby at the time for a team called Kirby Town, which is where Liverpool's new training ground is. And my uncle, God love him, and rest his soul, used to have a little bit of a temper on the sideline, and I'd been privy to him running across the pitch, having punch-ons with other parents, not really setting a good role model. So then 20 years later, I'm coaching at Leicester City in the Premier League at Everton, where the parents are 40 metres behind this tape. They're not allowed to do anything other than cheer. And I thought, wow, hasn't the game come on? The question I want to get to with the sideline effect, and we've got a lot of problems with this in Australia at the moment. It's like being in England in the 80s. What does the research and your experience tell you about sideline behaviour, and how does it really impact confidence, decision making, and love for the game? And give us an example. I'm sure you've seen many.
Absolutely. I'm just trying to think how you answer something like this, because everybody naturally on the parent thing, and when you do work with a lot of pros, how do I sort the sideline out? And I think it's got to go far deeper than that, because loads of people have tried to sort the sideline out with loads of different campaigns, chuck millions on it, and it's still as bad as what it ever is. The Australian one's interesting for me. I'll tell you a story. I was in Singapore doing some work with gymnastics, and I met an Australian in a bar, and we got talking about football. And he asked what I did, and I asked what he did. He said, oh, that's really interesting. And he said, who do you barrack for? So I was sort of taken aback culturally, and I had so many conversations. I thought, what a bizarre question. I'm assuming he means who do I support? But the immediate link then is, oh well, football. That means I behave like that. You know, and what you find then is what people are doing is that, like we talked about earlier, is they're basically saying, well, this is what we do in football. So actually, because in football I've seen some of these elements of behaviour, oh, well, that's all right for me then to sort of behave like that. The trouble is it doesn't support the challenge is it doesn't support performance. Now, when you get people to think about how do you support in a way that supports performance, particularly on the sides, you know, I always say we're trying to, particularly in my work, we're trying to help young players be ready for that step up to the professional game. Well, if they're going to play in front of 10, 15, 20,000, they're not going to be able to hear you yelling pass, down the line, tackle, shoot, and everything else that goes with it from the younger stage. So at what age are you going to let the stabilisers off? And if you'd link that to the fact that actually all the good learning happens because we see pictures, we paint pictures in our mind, we make mistakes, we then adapt that to the next picture that we get. That picture from a player's perspective looks very different from what it does on the side. And in my sessions, when I wander to the side of where I deliver and say, funny, that's a very different view from the one I've got at the front as to where the spaces are and whatever else, you start to then think, okay, well, hang on. What am I actually here for? Am I supporting a team, or am I supporting development, or am I supporting performance? Now, this isn't about removing fun, by the way. I'm not a fan of silent sidelines. I'm really not. I think they make a point, but they're very rarely backed up by continuous education, which is my issue with them. I think it raises awareness, but unless this is an ongoing piece and we're digging deeper and we're enhancing the environment that young people play in, it's just another thing that we tick off and do, and 2 weeks later everybody's back to behaving like normal, whether the kids have had it or not. So I always like to go down that line than trying to solve the society problem, certainly with performance parents, is how are you supporting a performer? And I think that means your ability to let them make those choices, to not get too embroiled. And if you do get emotional about stuff, I think this is a really good one for parents. And you know that all the external noise, all that stress of other parents, everything else that's going on, if you know inherently in your nature that's a challenge for you, I would go and stand on your own and zip your coat up. And honestly, my zip coat over the years, watching my two kids, I've still got a daughter at Newcastle United, a son who got released at 13 from a then Premier League club. I mean, my zips heard so many swear words over the years and so many statements. But the key is, it's not impacting on the actual game and the kids. So I think all these things just help people consider why do they do what they do. And I think with the sideline, they do that because this is just what we do. This is just what we do in football. Well, yeah. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. And at the top clubs now, we're actually saying, why would we want to say this is what we do in football? It's actually, hang on, this is what we do at Liverpool because we've made the choice that we know this is right. We've got to be brave. This is what we do here, and this is what we're going to police and do effectively because we know that creates better players. And people have to be brave and police and stand behind some of the things they say they're going to do. But you can't conquer the whole game. Impossible. Couldn't have that impact. Nobody could have that impact on society.
No. If anyone can fix the AI, you'd be onto $1 billion business.
Yeah, it'd be like the magic pill, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Now, the next one, and I love this one because I was very lucky to work with a very progressive head of football at Leicester City, a guy called John Rudkin. And at the time when I was working there, he said, we have a triangle and everything's got to work in synergy. He said, you've got the player at the top, you've got the parents at the bottom left, and you've got the club and the coaches at the bottom right. And if we all accept praise, but we all accept when things go wrong, responsibility, it's like this formula that will always work. And I used to love that. But from your point, when we talk about coach and parent alignments, in your experience, what separates environments where parents and coaches work in sync from those that constantly clash? And if you could give us a good example of something that you could maybe refer back to.
Well, I think that triangle I think the key to that is bringing that triangle to life. We've made some adaptations to it because actually, particularly with younger players, we put the parent at the top because the reality is without them and their influence, you've got no one to coach. We put the kids in the middle, and then the clubs and the coaches around that. Look, coaches, teachers, really tough job, really difficult job. We go in and do a lot of work with coaches on how do you work effectively with parents. My gut on all of this is that for me, young people need consistency from key people in their lives. And when young people say to me, Gordon, who do I listen to, my parent or my coach? I'm like, well, tell me what it is. And with the limited information, I'll give you an honest answer. And sometimes I'll say parent and sometimes I'll say coach. There's something massively uncomfortable about that for me. Everybody's banging on in the world about what young people need. A good starting point would be some leadership and consistency from key people in their lives, and then we'll worry about all the other bits that go. They're getting so many mixed messages and mixed noise. I think coaches bring different experiences to it. So when you work with young coaches who've never really had a challenge with parents, they're quite open to it. Those that have been round the block, maybe got a little bit older, a little bit uglier in my case, and have had to deliver bad news at a variety of points. You've then been on the receiving end of the late night email full of Sauvignon Blanc. You've been on the receiving end of all of these things. And it changes your perception of how you want to work with them, because it's like, actually, this is easy for me. I just want to push you as far away as possible. But actually, that presents really big problems, because then you don't get, well, actually, what's the coach working towards here? Where's the progress update for my kid? What are we working on? How can we support at home? Because parents are desperate to do the extra supporting bit. So how do we bring them into that whilst they're not interfering with maybe the technical and the coaching aspect of the game? How do we do it in a way that makes those conversations happen, and how do we create environments for those to happen? But not so that parents have got access to coaches every minute of the day either. But what you can't have is the wall of silence where the parents make up their own narratives, because I think that causes more damage than actually the reality of it, because they just pass it round to each other. But that's based on a lack of information for me, and a lack of understanding, and a lack of clarity and transparency of what's going on. And I think the best environments that I see working are really good. There is a safety for parents to speak in different formats, however that may be. But they're very aligned on, this is what we're trying to achieve. These are the steps that we're going to get there. This is what we're doing. This is what we could like you to help us with. And I think environments that are able to do that, I just think everybody benefits, because we've got to paint the picture of what development is, because it's not always nice. And when I see parents who are shocked by some of it's like, what were you expecting to see from being involved in performance sport? You know, it's like being a firefighter. If you go into the fire service, you will expect to see fire. If you go into performance sport, there are things you are going to see that happen to absolutely everybody that's ever played the game, or anybody that's tried to achieve. And then there's this major shock. Well, let's just talk about it. Let's just get it out there. Let's be honest, and let's just try and make sense of it in a way that helps young people.
Yeah, I love that. Now this next one, the car ride home. What's one thing that parents need to stop saying to kids, and what's what should be the framework of the car journey home from a parent's perspective to the child?
Yeah, okay. What I think we have to get away from is widely publicised. This would be really good to say, I loved watching you play, or did you enjoy that? Because if I asked my 15-year-old daughter that question now, she'd look at me as though I was on another planet. I get that some of these people are desperate to get a greater narrative. The reality for me, car journeys home, after games, everybody's emotional, tired, worked up. That's parents, coaches, and young players. Emotionally, physically, mentally tired. If things haven't gone according to plan, and I don't know how parents feel. I mean, parents listen to me. I'm shattered after watching my kids compete. I haven't verbalised it, but my God, I've lived the experience with them and everything that goes with it. In no other walk of life, if it's gone badly, would we put those two human beings back together and say, do you know what, we're now going to pick the bones out of that.
Yeah, you can imagine that on Match of the Day.
Yeah, but there you go. But there's the issue. I think because what happens is, because we've got so used to after-match analysis, and because we've got so used to, oh, well, this is clearly what we do from the age of 5 when we first appear, with the kids walking 10 metres behind us, sipping their water with their heads down, as we quote Match the Day from the night before. It doesn't necessarily support performance. And I think our ability, if it's gone well, it's easy because everybody wants to talk about, oh, did you see that? Oh, that was amazing when I did this. That's easy. That's the easy bit. But I think working with our kids around what actually works for them, what do they need after a game, and talking to them, because again, everybody's going to be different. And when I work with teenagers, Raymond, I've got live evidence of this, because I ask them what they want after a game. And their top 3 answers are bath and a shower, food and a sleep. At no point do they say a full-scale debrief with my mum and dad. However, what they do say is, I love talking to my parents about their sport, about my sport. And I'm like, yes, thank goodness for that. I love talking sport with my kids. And I said, well, what does that mean? And they'll say, well, I'm happy to do it later, or I'm happy to do it tomorrow, or a day after. And we know that from performance environments, that some elements of feedback we hold on to in the immediate aftermath of a game, and we wait till training on the Monday or training on the Tuesday. Well, we can incorporate that into some of our parenting approach as well. And I think if you are going to ask questions, you want to get your kids reflecting on their experience through their eyes, and try to resist the urge to do all the technical feedback of how you saw the world, unless they're leading it. But again, some kids will probably say, yeah, I need that from my dad as well. They have such a big influence. So I'm never going to say it's completely right one way or the other. I think there's just things we've got to consider.
Yeah, I love it. I think for me, I think the big game changer being at a Category 1 club at Leicester at the time was when they implemented the bus journeys to and from the games. So especially the away games, so the parents were allowed to travel, but they weren't allowed to be with the players. And the players had to be on the bus to come home. And what we found was the social elements of the game was great, because the kids would get on the bus, win, lose or draw. And we found that none of them really spoke about the game. All they were talking about was the computer games, the latest girlfriends. And they actually just had child time, being a child. And I remember having Luke Thomas and Harvey Barnes at the time, and they're sitting at the back of the bus, and I just look back now, and they were like 12 and 14 years of age, and think the kids just wanted to be kids. They didn't want that full Match of the Day debrief. And I think it's a shame that not everyone gets that, because not everyone plays at that level, and they have to do the car journey home sometimes, unfortunately, with difficult conversations.
But also, the thing for me, Roman, we've seen with the growth of our work, is who helps them.
Yeah.
So we're having this chat. If you listen to this morning, you might go, actually, is that good, and maybe adapt one thing. Where's the mass support on how we actually support young people, and help clubs and coaches create the right environments for that to happen?
It's so interesting. So without going off back too much. When we worked on the EPPP and we were trying to get the Cat 1 status for Leicester, which was successful, it always used to sit in the back of my head. I was reading a lot of books like Bounce by Matthew Said and Outlier by Malcolm Gladwell, and it sort of hit me that we're missing the boat, and this is 15 years ago, that the most important components of a child's life is the parents, or the parents. And I think that's where we're going to not increase 1%. I think we can increase football players in England by another 10%, I think, if we start to work with the parents. And I think this is why when I seen your business and I seen your LinkedIn profile and I spoke to Ben and he told me about you, and I'm like, this needs to be spread. Like, this is something that we've been throwing mud on the wall for years, but it hasn't been sticking. So it is a real privilege to speak to you today, mate, because I can see people are going to see this and it's going to make a huge change. And hopefully England can get that World Cup one year.
I can't guarantee that, but we live in hope, don't we?
We do. Now, we've only got a couple of questions to go, so we've got 2 more to go. The next one is the parents as a performance asset. So if parents saw themselves as part of the performance team rather than spectators, what behaviours do you think could change first?
I think again for me it's an environment. Again, it's what our role is as a parent, isn't it? I think if we're supporting performance, our role is obviously in logistics, environment at home, conversations, dialogues, and I actually think more. For me, when young people say I want to be a professional player, or young people say I want to go to the Olympics, I think that's brilliant. I love people to dream, aspire and have hope. But I think what it does mean for us as parents is I do think it means we can shift the dial on them a little bit, because then we've got to be demanding of the behaviours and those building blocks. And we're not confronting the person, because you try and have some of these conversations with teenagers, it's an absolute minefield. We're not confronting the person, we're confronting the behaviour. And actually our ability as parents to recognise that actually if I support, like you talked about earlier, the processes, that actually you need to bring into your week a large number of these character traits. You're telling me that you want to be a professional player, yet you're still on your devices till 3 a.m, and you're maybe not getting a quality of sleep, and you're maybe not doing your nutrition as well as it could be done. I've got an issue with that, because for me, they're then just words. But I think there has to be that distinction then between this is my kid just going out to play grassroots football, and this is somebody trying to do performance. I think they're 2 very different entities with very different outcomes, and everybody wants a one-size-fits-all solution to the whole thing. The moment we mention performance, for me, and you're part of supporting performance, I think you've got to really look at what your role is within that group.
Yeah, 100%. It's so important, and I think the whole sort of content of this podcast has all been about framing it and how the parents frame everything. And I think just having a bit of a plan and a thought process. Now, the final one, you're probably expecting this one, but the final question, and this is my question, for parents who are genuine and they want to give the child the best chance, not just in sport, but I think in life as well, what are the 3 behaviours or 2 or 3 behaviours that you think they can commit to today that's achievable, but they should follow through with them? And not just as like in your line of work, but as a fellow parent as well.
Oh, tough one. I prefer your parents' questions. They're easy. We'll go. Look, I think there's got to be commitment. There has to be commitment. I always just say that. It's always a context thing for me. There has to be commitment, but also young people need to have rest, recovery, and balance in their lives. But there has to be a commitment on things that we're trying to do and trying to achieve. Look, motivation comes and goes, Raymond. We all know that from our lives. But if we've committed to, this is what I'm trying to do, you find a way of getting the job find a way of getting the job done. So I think there's a commitment piece. I think you have to have resilience.
Yeah.
The trouble is, everything in the world at the moment is chipping away against resilience.
Yeah.
Blame cultures, excuses, poor
Entitlements.
comparisons, all of those behaviours. We've got to foster that in a positive way. And do you know what? It means pain, it means upset, and it means learning from these experiences and doing it in a way that creates far better foundations. I also think a trait that I just think in life, and I know has been invaluable to me, and I encourage this in my kids more than any other trait, is your ability to communicate with other people. I think is huge.
Yeah.
I think your ability to take people with you, I think your ability to go and seek support, your ability to communicate well, absolutely massive. And do you know what? Young players are not going to reach the top on their own. They're going to need support. They're going to need support. Well, we want to get them talking about their game. We know one of the traits of high performers is how good they are at evaluating performance and what it is that they're doing. Well, we've got to get them talking about their sport, get them talking about how they're feeling about it. If they need to solve problems, maybe rather than always jumping in, is this one of those times where actually I can help shape a conversation with them to maybe go and have with the coach or somebody with the club, get them standing on their own 2 feet. So, yeah, I think for me, commitment, resilience, good communicators, I think would stand you in pretty good stead.
It's an amazing one to finish on, and I had a really big argument with my ex-wife at the time. This is many years ago, and my eldest daughter, who's now 17, professional tennis player, she was 6 years of age, and we'd just come back to England for a visit. And we pulled up outside the newspaper shop, and I give her some money. She was only 6, and I said, "You need to go in the shop. You need to get me a copy of the Liverpool Echo." I wrote it down as it's a newspaper, and she stood there outside the shop 15 minutes crying. And I'm like, no, you need to just go in. I'm watching, and she did eventually. And I remember her mum saying to me many years later, she said, "I sort of understood what you were doing with her when she was really young, really helping her to have the confidence to go in even at the age of 6 and 7. Because I think that's normal for me and you to walk in the shop and buy a newspaper. But if you've never done it, the first barrier is communication. And I think it's a poignant one to finish on. Now, for all of our followers, before we let you go, Gordon, so obviously you've been doing a bit of work in Liverpool this year. Is there any other big clubs that you've worked in and any other big plans for the rest of 2026 that you can share with our platform? Because we're very fortunate, we've got about 2 million followers across all the socials, so everyone would be keen to know what you're up to this year.
Yeah, look, there's loads on the go. I mean, we work across the Premier League, the boys and girls programme. We're working with the England teams on the girls' side. We're across all of the Football League clubs. But beyond, some stuff in the US as well, working with individual clubs over there. And then, of course, that's our football world. We're doing rugby pathways, cricket pathways, hockey, gymnastics, international gymnastics. I was even asked to do some work in curling and skateboarding. I mean, I always joke, I know absolutely nothing about curling and skateboarding. And I always say, if anybody wants to have a chat, I'd be really grateful. Nobody comes forward. Nobody's come forward yet for a long time. But yeah, look, massively exciting. And the best thing for me is I get to have so many dialogues and visit so many different environments every day. It's a real privilege. And all you're trying to do, I guess, is bring everybody closer together, relationships-wise, in a way that ultimately is helping these young people thrive. And yeah, very fortunate to, as I say, work with all these different experiences and try and make sense of what is a very complex world that we're living in.
It is. It's very, very complex. Now, we will share it in the show notes, but if anyone wants to reach out to you, they'll get a copy of the book or anything, where can they go to see it?
Yeah, so the book's exclusively available on the Parents in Sport platform. That's www.parentsinsport.co.uk. That's not because it's not a bestseller, it's the fact that I wasn't going to let Amazon take all the profits from that. So we sell that there, but we sell it after talks across the world, and we've got a number of programs who buy all of those books for their parents within their programs. So that's how we do our sales. So that's the best place to find us. And if anybody wants to reach out and send us an email from there, that would be the place to do it.
What I'm going to do is, for all of my listeners and followers on our platform, the first 3 players to comment on this book, BOOK, we'll actually purchase you a copy of the book. So we're going to give away 3 copies. And all you've got to do, my friends, on our platform is comment the word book, and the first 3 families to do that, we'll actually purchase a copy of the book for you off Gordon. So, Gordon, a big thank you, mate. I know it's early morning there, it's late at night here, but a big thank you for your time. And maybe we do weekly live calls with our athletes. So maybe at some point later in the year, if maybe we could get you for 15-20 minutes and let our parents unleash themselves on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, happy to help. Love the conversation as always.
Cheers, Gordon. I'll be in touch, mate. Thanks very much.
Gotta do this weight session, gotta do this. That's not gonna help you whenever you're in sparring, somebody's punching the head off you, you know what I mean? It's fight, we have to fight, you know what I mean? So, obviously, as you put the hard work in, but I like this whenever I'm sparring and stuff, it takes priority, and you want to be sparring fresh, because obviously if you're not sparring well, that plays in your head as such, do you know what I mean? Some people don't spar that well. Like I don't spar the best anyway, but then on Fight Night I rise sort of, like I fight better than what I spar. Yeah. Just purely because of you rise for the occasion, you know what I mean? But I know some people who are the complete opposite, spar unbelievable, but then when they're under the bright lights, don't do it. Yeah, you know, just they don't perform
Exactly
at all.
the same in football. There's been a lot of footballers over the years who've had the thrown at them, and I've seen it on training grounds in the Premier League. Like, you've got some of the most amazing trainers, but then when they get on a pitch, they just can't put it together.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of players who are the other way around, and it must be tricky to balance that one.
It is, and that's why like sometimes you can't now my coaches and stuff and my manager and that, they know me so well, they don't panic whenever I don't spar that well, because they know I fight. And that's when you want to be doing it, you know what I mean? So
you don't want it the other way around.
There's no work titles won the sparring. Yeah, so obviously, as I said, the main thing is sparring, getting ready for the fight, and lots of punching, lots of pad work, and all that, working on your technique, and all that is a given. But just S&C and the running and that's just a part of the puzzle. Yeah. But the majority is the boxing.
It's actually getting in and practicing.
100%. There's nothing like that. You know yourself.
One of the big things that our players go through, and you obviously go through a lot, because not only have you got hundreds of thousands of people in the room, but you're on the cameras, people are watching this worldwide. When you're walking into that ring, I mean, I love your walk-ins, I love the music, but I actually get nervous for you as well, and I'm like, bloody hell, I'm sitting here getting nervous for him, thinking, God knows what Conor feels like. Have you got a way of channeling that? Do you get nervous? Is it a good nervous energy? Are you able to turn it into a positive energy? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, I believe I turn it into a positive energy, because the fighting is the fun part of me. I love the fighting. The training, it's alright. I know you have to do it, but I definitely much prefer fighting than training, you know? Yeah. So getting to the fight night, knowing, whenever I get to the fight night, knowing I've put in the work, you know, and that's where I get my confidence from, because I know I do train hard, you know, I know I put in the work, and that's where a lot of the confidence comes from. But just knowing that, right, we're here now, no injuries, no colds, no flus, you know, all the hours and sacrifice that I've done comes down to this. And that's why you see me when I'm coming out, I'm laughing, I'm buzzing and dancing and singing to the music and getting the crowd and everything going. That's what it's all about, you know? Yeah. And I do love that. It definitely turned into a positive, and I think that's why I perform on the night as such, because I'm not nervous. I'm not what can you? But I know the work I've done, and I believe in my ability. And if I didn't think I'd beat the boy, I wouldn't be in the ring. Yeah, and that's just how it is.
Your ring walkout, I want you to tell everyone the song that you come out to, and also why you chose that song.
Yeah, well, I've had a few different ones. I came out a working class man at the start. I think it was my coach. He used to walk out there. I came out to a few Irish songs, and then obviously it was headline on St Patrick's Day. That one that you were at. I came out did a bit of an Irish song at the start, and then it burst into Run This Town because it really got the crowd going. Yeah. And I've kept that since, just because in Sydney the last time there was a big Irish crowd in Sydney as well, and obviously I'm very proud to be Irish, and I'll never change, you know what I mean? So it's good. And I gotta play on that Irish theme because everyone knows the fighting Irish, everyone knows the Irish love a scrap, they love the beer, so I'll keep it going. But no, I'm looking forward to getting back. I love the Fortitude Music Hall where I'm fighting next to. It is my favourite venue. Yeah, I've made it a bit of a home for myself now, and obviously with Finn McCool's, they're one of my sponsors as well, right across the road. Yeah, everyone goes there before the fight. Yeah, the fight, and then go there after. That's where I have my after party. So it's unreal, and it's building all the time. And I'm sure you've seen on St Patrick's Day what it was like. It was unbelievable.
I couldn't believe it that day. It was such a good day, like to bring my two daughters out, and I've told them about many of the drunken St Patrick days we were part of as kids growing up with my dad and my uncle and my granddad. And I've told you, like my nan was from Ireland, from the south of Ireland, from a place called Kildare in Dublin. We've got a lot of Irish roots, and just for my girls to be part of that and put the green on and wear your colour in your tea, and it was such a good day and night. And then, you know, even going back in the pub in the evening, just for the atmosphere alone, like, it was phenomenal. Like, you just can't beat it.
Yeah, unbelievable. And again, I was supposed to fight last St Patrick's Day, not the one just gone. Yeah. But the hand surgery ruled me out of it, so I broke my hand that November and got the 7 screws and the bone from my hip, and that was a setback. And I was so looking forward to fighting on St Patrick's Day, and then it was pushed back until July just to give me a little bit of time. Yeah. And then I wasn't for missing it. I wasn't for missing the one just gone. It was an unbelievable fight too, and because it was a bit of a war, and I ended up knocking the guy out in the 6th round again. So, but I think if I hadn't really stopped the boy earlier in the first round, it wouldn't have been as good an event, you know. The fight made it as well because it was a war and the crowd was so involved. It was good, you know, and then getting the knockout put the icing on the cake, you know, so it was good.
It was so good. Now, we speak to our athletes about sort of like pre-game rituals, and we spoke to them about last year about, like, as an example, Rafa Nadal. In tennis, everyone who's seen him, they think he's ADHD in a sense of the way, like, he turns his bottles and he twists his lids a certain way. But I know from my background, he's actually, what he's doing is he's focusing on processes and outcomes, and he's trying to put the outcome of the match away and just focus on one process at a time. And that's actually a visual reminder for him. It's like a trigger. Do you have any, like, pre-fight rituals to help you with any of that stuff, or anything maybe you're superstitious about, or for our athletes you could tell or share with?
Yeah, definitely. I am a very superstitious person, to be honest. I don't like to change much. I like to keep the same routine, as I said earlier in the podcast. But, like, so after I have the weigh-in and stuff, I start to refuel and rehydrate. I always go to an Italian restaurant. Yeah. Then the night before the fight, just like to carb up and pasta and stuff. And that's one thing I always do. I go to the same one all the time. Marinara at Clayfield, you probably know it. Lovely. Yeah, I go there and then I get up. So on the day of the fight, I don't like lying about, you know, and the day drags, you're just sitting thinking about the fight. So I like to surround myself with, get out and go for a coffee and be around my mates, be around my missus, you know, and it takes your mind off the fight as such. Yeah. Because on a normal day or from sparring, I never lie in bed all day or rest, or your mind's just doing overtime. So I like to, it's just another day, you know, and then I'll go to the pool, jump in the pool, have a bit of a swim, bit of a stretch. Yeah. Feel good, and then actually train the day of the fight as well, because it just helps you settle, the food, and I train twice a day anyway. I don't do a mad session where I'm absolutely gassed, but I do a good blowout. You just feel better, you know what you feel like after getting the body moving and stuff, and then I'll go home and have a bit of a feed, follow my plans from my dietitian and stuff, and then I head to the fight. But obviously I like to wear the same boxers and stuff at fighting. Just stuff like that, you know. Yeah. It's just a real common thing, and the same little prayer that I've always said since I was 11. Just what my first boxing coach, he done this little prayer verse, and I've always said it before every fight, you know. Yeah. Just doesn't work well for me. So I've been around the game a long time. I've been boxing for almost 20 years and stuff, and you pick up things along the journey, along the way, and I got to use them to my advantage. Yeah.
Now, roll on this fight, and let's imagine you get over the line with that fight and you put that one away. What's the next plans? Because you've already said you're ranked number 2 in the world. Who's in your sights? Who is it? Who do you want to fight, and where do you want to fight, and what's your dream?
Yeah, so like I've dreamt about being a world champion since I was a young boy, you know, and like been boxing for 20 years, as I say, this just didn't happen overnight. I have had a lot of ups and downs, you know, injuries and whatnot. So this fight in December, I'm definitely not overlooking my opponent. You know, you can't at this level. Anything can happen. It's a fight game, so it's very important for me. This can be a banana skin. You know what I mean? If I lose, it undoes all my good work. So a lot of pressure on every fight now. Every fight's like a world title fight, as I say. So I'm looking forward to getting in there and doing a good job. And I like the pressure. I like having that pressure on me, and it pushes me hard in training, because I know if I lose here, I slip up. So the main thing is to get a good win, and from then I'm looking forward to setting myself up for a huge year next year. Yeah, obviously we're coming for that. We're not too far away from a world title shot. So
do you think if you get this fight over the line, is the next fight a potential world title fight or not?
Potentially it could be, you know, depending on what happens with the belts and stuff. I think it's a little bit up in the air what's going to happen with if the boys are rematching or not. I think they've all better be it, maybe rematching in March. But again, I leave that up to my management and promoters. That is their job, but they've got my best interests at heart, and they know we're all pulling together the one way to get that world title shot. So the main thing is for me to keep winning, and if the next fight after this one is not a world title shot or whatever, and I just need to be fighting, do you know what I mean? It's like I don't want to not fight from now until maybe next November or next October. It's pointless, you know. Main thing is to get a good win, and then to take it from there and see what's next. But that's the beauty of having a good team around you, you know.
As a young boy growing up, is there one venue or one sort of like hotel or one stadium where you'd absolutely love to fight in?
I think with my experience of being with McGregor, you know, in Vegas, that T-Mobile Arena, it's a special stadium. Like the walkout and stuff. I know the UFC events are mad and the fans are fanatics, you know, but I'll never forget walking out with him. Obviously I got to do his corner for the fight, or in the cage, and walking out, I'm not joking you, right, the ground was like vibrating. And like I've never experienced that before in my life, but it was just never the woman, she was like 3, 2, 1, walk, and like we start on the floor. I'm not messing. I've never ever in all my time, like I've been to some of the biggest boxing events ever, and I've never ever experienced anything like that. Conor McGregor.
What would that T-Mobile Arena hold in Vegas? Is it?
I'm not too sure, but even just the full weight, the buzz, the fight weight and all. But I thought that was unbelievable, right? And then, but just that walk, I'll never forget her coming in and us walking out, and I was just like, wow, this is not wise.
So obviously I've seen on your post and I've heard you speak about Conor McGregor before. So have you actually got in the ring with him and sparred with him, or have you done anything with him in the past?
Yeah, I have. I was actually his main sparring partner for the Nate Diaz fight. As you know, I'm a tall southpaw. Left-handed, obviously that's the same as Diaz. So whenever he had the first loss, like he was just sparring people in the gym and whatever. But until you don't change anything until you have a loss, or it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? So he obviously had that loss, and similar to myself, he wanted to get the win back. So he put a plan in place, new strength coach, new conditioning coach, and brought in sparring partners specific and similar to Diaz. And I was obviously one of them. The fight was like a boxing fight, you know. Stand up, damn tall, lanky, same as Diaz, and that's what it was like. So he brought me into Dublin to spar him, and then I sparred him once in Dublin, and then he ended up taking me to Vegas for the full 6 or 8 week camp, whatever it was. Lived in Vegas with him for the full camp, and it was unbelievable. You know, the people that
hell of a time.
Oh, it was unreal. You know, the people that we met along the way. It was, but it made me hungry. You know, and
you want that.
That's where I want to be. You know, and that's whenever I knew, like, McGregor started from nothing. You know, and just with hard work and sacrifice, and he had plenty of ups and downs, and
remember growing up as a kid and always avidly I always loved football, but boxing was always one that we were, you know, the Mike Tyson fights, the Frank Bruno fights. I remember seeing those big fights in Vegas going, it'd be amazing to go to Vegas and watch a fight, but it's changed a bit now, the boxing world. A lot of it's going to Saudi, there's a lot more money coming from that. So would that be something that you'd still be keen on as well if you had an opportunity to go into Saudi? And
oh, for sure, yeah. But I just got back from Saudi. I was over there at the Bivol and Beterbiev fight, and obviously Jai Obataia was fighting, Sky Nicholson was fighting, 2 Aussies. So it's good to go along and support them and see what it's like. That was my first time in Saudi Arabia, but again, you know, it was good to get over there. People seeing the rankings and stuff, but it's good to get over there and do a bit of networking and meet some people that did heaps of media and stuff. But to get over there, it's about the relationship you have with them people, and that's how you get on them big shows and stuff, you know, as well. Yeah. You know, you can keep winning and stuff, but if they don't sort of have that relationship with you, or
I think it's good for people to put your face to your name as well.
Exactly. That's what it's all about. And again, networking and seeing people, and I'm a bit like yourself, you know. I love talking and meeting new people, and I think that's how we sort of get on, you know. And it was great. It was great to be there and be part of it. And again, that makes you hungrier to want to get there.
So thanks to you, you're not aware of this, but since we come to your last fight, and obviously I brought my youngest one, Paloma, we've watched Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 about 5 times over. She just does not shut up about it. It's like Connor's fights looked at, and then she was devastated when she watched Rocky 3 when he lost to Mr. T.
I must actually watch them back. I haven't watched them in a while yet. But whenever you do start getting into them, you want to just watch them all, isn't it?
But I've used it as a bit of a psychology with her because she's done a lot of different sports over the years. But my eldest has just solely been tennis, and I'm trying to get into running a little bit just for a bit of fitness and just for health reasons. And it's funny that the night before, if she's watched Rocky, she'll get up and do a run the next day, no problem.
Yeah, just gives you the motivation.
Guys, we're just going to go to our third and final ad break, but we'll be back with you in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
Hi everyone, we are coming around every major city in Australia over the next 12 months. We have got free objective football testing going on, guys. It's for boys and girls aged 10 all the way through to 18 years of age. The objective testing is quite simple. We'll put you through our 6 tests and it'll give you your results, physical, technical and tactical. And also, we're going to choose 16 winners to join us on an all expenses paid trip to Europe in 2024 and also 2025. Guys, what have you got to lose? Nothing. It's free to sign up. You get free objective testing and you'll get a free feedback, and maybe you'll be joining me at the Santiago Bernabeu in 2024 or 25.
Hi everyone, this is Raymond Woods at the Raymond Podcast. We're back for our little final section with Connor Wallace. Now Connor, we've been speaking about Saudi, Vegas, big fights, pre-fight rituals, your support system and your network. Obviously, forecasting a little bit further ahead. I know you're still only young and you're still in your career, but do you ever have any thoughts about like when it's all over and you finish boxing? One of the big things I'm saying this is that one of the things we discovered in football and more so in men, it was really, really hard that men go through this lifestyle of living this, people see it as a luxurious life, and I know it's not. There's a lot of hard work that goes into being an athlete in any sport, but once that stops, sometimes unfortunately there's a lot of men who go into like depression and breakdowns and stuff. And what we discovered was in the football world is they don't really future plan ahead. Have you got anything in your head where you think, you know, are you just going to go complete family? Would you like to be a coach in boxing? Would you come out of boxing? Do you ever think about that stuff post-career?
Yeah, definitely. You know, obviously, boxing's been a massive part of my life, and even whenever I'm not boxing, I do enjoy a little bit of coaching and some of the charity programs. And I'm sure you've heard about the Fight for a Cause, or you know, the train for 10 weeks and fight at the end for those people for a good charity. You know, I get a lot out of that. I do a little bit of PTing and stuff here and there. Not so much now, obviously, when I've got the big fights and that coming up, but a lot of work with the NDIS and stuff. You know, the kids with learning disabilities. And whenever I first came to Australia, like I was PTing and, you know, basically working as well whenever I wasn't training, because that's like taking classes and stuff, and that's how I built up a lot of my relationships and sponsors and how people got to know me. Obviously my fighting as well, but like you have to start somewhere, you know what I mean? Like I 5 minutes of your time each week.
It's networking again, isn't it? Relationships.
100%,
We were literally talking about this. I was in the gym yesterday and I was sat in the sauna, and this guy literally got chatting, asked me what I'd done, and then all of a sudden there was a synergy between us and his business, and then we were on a call this morning, like connecting, and it's all around helping kids and doing a good cause.
Like you never know who you're going to meet, or you know what I mean, or who can come into the class and stuff, you know. And like, I'll never forget where I come from, you know what I mean, and that's one thing I think a lot of people who know me and from talking to me, I'm pretty sort of a humble sort of person. I don't like the shit talking or talking shit before a fight or disrespect. Like, that's not the way I was reared, you know what I mean? And I've got a great relationship with all my sponsors. Like, people just don't throw me money or whatever and say, oh yeah, that's good. I'm not take. That's not how I operate and how I work, you know. I've got a great relationship with all my sponsors and stuff, and I think that's very important as well, you know. Like, people will get sick of you know, it's take, you know. How easy is, I think it's easier to be nice to people than to not be nice, you know?
It is, it's huge. And that's one of the things I wanted to finish on, obviously. Talk a little bit about your backgrounds. Obviously, we both grew up probably not too far away from each other, probably 15 minutes on a plane. Where did you grow up? I know where you're from, but just for our listeners listening, and what was your upbringing? Your mum, dad, siblings, friends, family?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Uri, and just right in the border between the north and south of Ireland, so north from Dublin and 45 from Belfast on the northern side. My mother and father, Brian and Serena, and my sister. I've got a brother and sister, one older sister and one younger brother, Eve, Ellen and Guy.
Yeah.
My brother, they're actually all here as well. Just my mum and dad are back at home, so got a great life coming up, and I was in primary school and St. Coleman's College then, but I've been boxing. I actually started